Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Breakfast Club Jamboree with my friends Raven and Michael, and more hosts that want to appear as and when they can be bothered. So, how are you, Raven and Michael, and more hosts that want to? Oh, wow, that's quite a delay.
That's the
Where did
delay.
that come from?
That's the delay on the actual feed to the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a
He's
delay.
monitoring the chat because Laplace's demon and Raven are in there.
So, what stories of the week would you like to discuss? And Raven, feel free to tell me what story of the week you would like me to avoid, because I'm sure there's a good one.
To tell you what? Wait, what?
What is there a subject you would prefer I avoid this week? Just tell me.
No,
I can take it.
No. It's all right.
I heard that men are dogs.
Men are dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were one of us, and now that you're not, you're realizing how much men are dogs.
I was never one of you.
Well, you were passable for a second there, and now. And
for
now,
a hot second.
Yeah, you've put out that nobody is to start. See, I know not to even call you, like an emergency, like
Okay, so
like, without video. But people are like trying to open up video.
so since I began to present as a woman, my online activities, my online life has just like gone nuts. And then after I got the hair extensions, it went completely off the fucking charts. Because I have two. Well, you guys know this. I have two different Facebook accounts. I've got one that's like my family and friends and all that. And some of you guys are on both. I think both of you guys, are on both. And the other account is YouTube and fans and followers and all that kind of stuff. So on that account, I pretty much accept almost any friend request. And in the span of like 3 days, I had 500 friend requests.
Wow.
And it got to the point where I ended up blocking lots and lots of people. And then I started being a little bit more choosy about who I decide to accept. But my friend list doubled in just a couple of days on there. And I get messages nonstop. While we've been on, I've gotten 3 different messages from 3 different people while we've been on the air, which is only 3 minutes. I've gotten 2 different friend requests in the last 3 minutes. And I mean, there's comments, there's messages. They try to video chat with me, and I keep posting, do not try to video chat because I will block you. And they do it anyway. And I block about easily a dozen people every single day. It's crazy.
You make me think maybe I should get like some dreadlocks or something.
Yeah, right. It's really crazy. And there's the dick pics and there's the marriage proposals and just it's nuts. It's really crazy. And I mean, if this is what cis women deal with, like on the regular, guys really need to do better. It's bad. I just got another fucking message from somebody. It never stops. It all day, all night. It never stops.
Yeah. Have you tried shopping for a car?
To see how I'm treated? No.
Because that's going to be interesting.
It might be. Yeah, it might be. I have to do something with my voice first.
And what would be the normal way of addressing that?
My voice?
How do people normally address that? I mean, do they have it? Is it an affectation or is it hormonal? Or how is it normally addressed when people are transitioning? The voice issue. Sometimes that can be a big one.
Vocal training.
Right.
You actually have to work at it. It's hard. I haven't gotten serious about it yet. I mean, I try to, while we're like doing this, I try to talk kind of softer than I used to. I noticed a difference. I don't know if anybody else does, but it sucks. It's hard. So
When people aren't quite pulling it off, it almost sounds like they're trying to sing a Smashing Pumpkins song.
yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So, yeah, and I'm sorry to be like, men suck and that kind of stuff, or men are dogs. It's hard to separate the good ones from the bad ones, because I mean there are a number of men that I've been like talking to on a regular basis on that account that go out of their way not to sound like a douchebag, but what they don't realize, and I actually haven't told them, is that actually makes them sound like they're trying not to sound like a douchebag, so therefore they are a douchebag. You know what I mean? And I mean, so they're nice. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, I've been approached in public where somebody actually put their hands on me. So like I had an incident at the grocery store. I went in to get baby shampoo, and I'm going back to my car, and I'm almost at the car, and I hear a voice. Somebody saying, excuse me, can I talk to you for a second? And I stop and I turn around, and it's the guy that clears out the shopping carts in the parking lot. It's the cart pusher, a store employee. And he's coming towards me, he's picking up speed, and he's like, jogging towards me. And he goes, I just want to ask you a question. I said, what's up? And he gets up really close, and he goes, are you single? And I was like, what? I just want to know if you're seeing anybody. And I said, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm not single. And he said, oh, damn. I'm like, you all right? He's like, I really want one like you.
Yeah, you mentioned that one before. Yeah.
And I said, what? He goes, I want one like you. You're pretty. And he grabs me. He puts his hands around my waist. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? So I pat him on the shoulder like this, and I said, don't you have to go back to work? He's like, yeah, but I want one like you. You're pretty. And I mean, it was scary shit. It was scary. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Okay, so since we've leaned in a little bit on this whole, men are dogs, stroke, men need to do better routine. Andrew Cuomo, right, this week has been raked over the coals for inappropriately touching at least 11 women over the course of recent years, right? And I find it utterly easy to believe that this inappropriate stuff happened. Maybe that's my failing, but maybe I shouldn't be jumping to conclusions and reaching to conclusions before evidence is fully in or whatever. But quite frankly, it's not just the accusations that seem credible to me. It's his shitty denial or his obfuscation of the seriousness of what he's done that makes me realize he's done it.
Right. I mean, he's basically in his denial. He's admitted it.
Right.
And it's just like, dude. I mean, he's an old school, old fashioned politician. He's been in the public eye forever. He's been in politics his entire life. Because
his dad was governor before him, wasn't he? So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like a political dynasty. It's a political family. It's all he knows. And he spent. Jonah, why are you messaging me? Why, Jonah? What are you doing? You're in the chat. Oh no, you're not one of those, Jonah. Jonah. Wow, Jonah, you're good. You're good. So, I mean, when he says, Oh, but I touch people all the time. I kiss people all the time. Okay, dude, it's not appropriate. I mean, you're admitting that you do it, and the whole world is telling you that it's not appropriate. You can't just turn around and then say, I did nothing wrong.
Okay.
You admitted it, and we're telling you it's wrong.
Okay.
What about it if I said that that was culturally insensitive of Italian Americans?
I think that that would be culturally insensitive of Italian Americans. I mean, do you know how many Italian Americans are really pissed off that The Sopranos is a thing? I mean, there's like, why are we feeding into stereotypes?
Wait a second. Are you an Italian American?
Yeah, culturally Italian, yeah.
Because you live in Jersey.
No, because my grandfather was born in Sicily.
Okay, so you don't do any of those affectionate things that he said
No.
he did as an excuse for what he did?
No.
Okay.
No.
You
Because
know,
that's an Italian stereotype. And
I-
shame on him for feeding into it. And you know what's really fucked up is his brother basically said the same kind of thing. Don't feed into stereotypes about Italians. And now there they are doing the same fucking thing.
they are kind of stereotypically Italian, though.
They are. But you don't have to feed into it.
Well, I don't know. I have strong opinions about that because in the town I grew up in, there's like 25% Italian Americans, and so I happen to have strong opinions about it.
Dude, well, I mean, Michael mentioned it. I mean, I'm in New Jersey. I mean, I might as well be in an Italian province here. This is like an Italian colony.
Right. Well, I find Cuomo's whole in his defense of himself, he flashed a bunch of pictures of him kissing young and old people, male and female, blah blah blah.
Really,
And like, I kind of get it because like he's trying to ride it out, But dude, they're gonna impeach your ass. All right, you really want to go out like that? Have the dignity to go, you know what? I goofed. It would be one thing. I might feel even a tiny sliver of smidgen of some let it go-ism if maybe all these accusations were from like the 80s or some shit like that when the cultural zeitgeist was different. But some of this shit was from like last year or this year after he had already been criticized for inappropriately touching people. So I'm sorry. I got no sympathy. And quite frankly, I think he's got no honor or dignity because he should resign and he's not going to.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, he had been in the public eye and in politics forever. And it's easy for him to say, there was a time when that was acceptable and I was in the public sphere at the time. So if I did things, I'm sorry. And okay, all right. But yeah, some of the stuff was recent. It's just like, you can't say that anymore.
Right. He has tried the whole, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, and it shouldn't have been perceived because my intentions were not blah, blah, blah. And this is where I call bullshit. You know what I mean? The number of people who aren't in prominent positions who still try this kind of bullshit. And when you're in a prominent position, Donald Trump basically admitted it when he was running for president 6 years ago that, like if you're too famous, people don't know how to tell you not to do something. You know what I mean? They don't tell, like you could just grab them by the pussy, Trump said, because if you're famous, you can get away with anything. That's more or less what he said. And people in a powerful position are basically daring you to call them on it. So this is why I'm kind of glad that he's got called on it.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to go. He needs to step down. I mean, it's just his video, the montage, that was hilarious. I mean, that was just, it was like, dude, really? This is your defense?
One of the biggest own goals I ever saw.
Yeah, this is your defense is basically video proof of the accusations.
The prosecution will rest with a video of his defense.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
I don't know. I mean, like, I kind, my suspicious mind is also like, okay, so they're showing us this with the right hand. What the fuck is the left hand doing? That they're trying to distract us with all this bullshit. Because I mean, once upon a time, someone in his position would have gone, okay, fine, fair enough. I can't. My position is now untenable. I can't be governor and have to deal with all this bullshit at the same time. So I'll let my lieutenant take over. Ain't happening. And if it's not happening, it makes me wonder why not. Because is it really just a guy's vanity?
On a much smaller scale, here in my county, on the county committee that I'm on, the former chair of the committee, she was odd. Anyway, she had caused a lot of problems. There was a lot of people that didn't trust her, and they passed around a petition to get rid of her. I didn't have a huge problem with her, and a lot of the things that she was being accused of, I didn't have any firsthand knowledge of, nor could I find anything that proved that she had done anything wrong. But I signed the petition for her to be removed anyway. And when asked why, I said, because she has lost the ability to lead, because her administration, her leadership, everything has been undermined by the accusations and her reaction to it. And it's the exact same thing here. Even if he did nothing wrong, he has to go because his leadership has been undermined. He's done. He's baked. He's shot. He's got to go.
My problem with that is if we set that as the precedent, then all we need to take down politicians that we don't like is to just throw accusations out.
They do that now. They already do that.
Yeah. Do you think Bill Clinton should have stepped down?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And by not stepping down, he kind of set a precedent for people to not step down in the face of things like impeachment. Whereas Nixon stepped down in the face of such things in disgrace.
Yeah, it's really odd to say that Nixon actually did the right thing.
Yeah. Then Bill Clinton didn't, and then the precedent was set for Donald Trump to not.
Yeah.
Even in the face of 2 impeachments. Hey, Paul, unmute.
Got it. Yeah, I never sort of thought of it on that sort of domino level that you just mentioned it, because you're not wrong. Bill Clinton, in my opinion, I mean, I read the whole Starr report from cover to cover, right? And there's one thing that's for sure: Bill Clinton lied under oath, and I'm pretty sure that was one of the articles of impeachment. And the fact that he did it. I mean, it's right there. You know what I mean? And you shouldn't be able to be the president, lie under oath, and not have a consequence. So if he wanted to weather out the impeachment for whatever reason, and I don't know if his reputation or whatever he thought he could salvage, I don't really understand why he didn't do it. But he should have resigned, because he did disgrace the presidency by committing perjury in office. The fact that it was a bullshit charge to me is almost irrelevant, because if you're under oath, you're under oath. Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah. And in our lifetimes, even in his own lifetime, he got to see the repercussions of setting that precedent of not stepping down when impeached.
Sorry, I'm just amused by the Proctor Hawk's comment that Bill Clinton did the right thing. He needed to lie about that blowjob.
I don't know why he needed to lie about it. It's not like, Hillary was giving him anything. That's
kind of funny. That reminds me of Chris Rock's joke about it. Who should have been the first one on her knees, Because he's like, when your man's need a blowjob every day, kind of a man.
That would be Bill, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I remember at the time, I was obviously living in the UK at the time, and I was just thoroughly embarrassed by the whole episode. It was just, it seemed to me to bring America pretty low in the world's estimation.
Yeah, I was in my early 20s, so I wasn't embarrassed by it. I barely cared.
Did your friends in the UK make you answer for everything that Americans did? Did you have
Kinda.
to apologize for
Not my
America?
friends so much, but when I lived in Britain, there was a few times, especially around about the beginning of the Iraq War, where I'd be like on the bus on the way home, and people would be deliberately talking over loudly about America toward me, because everyone knows I'm American, right? It's a small community. And one time I turned around and said, "Look, man, should I blame you for everything that Tony Blair did?" You know, they're like, "No, I don't support Tony Blair." I was like, "What the fuck makes you think I support George Bush just because I happen to be American?" It just blows my mind, you know. But that was pretty much the only time in the UK that I had any real, other than your typical sort of British xenophobia, about Yankee go home and all that kind of thing. Actually, I got that from Irish people as well.
Irish people were not nice to you?
Irish people, I for some reason, there's a few Irish people that I met at parties who, for whatever reason, I rub up the wrong way. And I don't know. I'm just, yeah. Yeah. One guy didn't try to beat me up, but he wanted to beat me up. He wanted to start a fight with me, but I wouldn't sort of rise to it, and it just made him look stupid for trying, which was lucky because he could have punched me easily and got away with it. Anyway, yeah.
So what else?
Indeed.
I
You
mean,
tell
we
me.
talked about Italian stereotypes.
Yeah.
We talked about men being dogs.
And we talked about Cuomo should resign.
Yeah.
And right, it's been great, guys. Thanks very much. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, right. No, I mean, I don't know, because I have visiting granddaughters. I haven't been as engaged with the news as I normally am. So I do find myself rather like disturbingly weary of all the coronavirus stuff on the news at the moment, because I really do feel like I know there's still a problem, but I kind of have this strong feeling they're over sensationalizing some parts of it, and it's starting to get on my tits.
Well, I know I'm wearing.
Huh?
Over sensationalizing?
Sometimes it feels like it, yeah.
Okay. I'd say that by the numbers, the dramatic increase in cases is not something that you could over sensationalize, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree with that, right? But I mean, there's, like I said the other week, or maybe it's 2 weeks ago or whatever. I mean, like when they say there's 100,000 cases every day or whatever, just to pick a round number. Okay, but out of how many being tested? That's what I really need to know. If it's 100,000 out of 1,000,000, that's 10% positivity. If it's 100,000 out of 200,000, it's 50% positivity. That's something that's obviously way more of a crisis. So how many positive cases are every day doesn't necessarily give me the information I feel like I need to understand what's going on. And I feel like the conversation is being framed in a deliberate way. I just don't feel like I'm getting the facts that I need. And the other thing about it is that there's so much disinformation now that, I mean, my goodness, it's really hard these days to, I don't know. I find myself, I want to trust the science, obviously, and I want to trust the doctors. And like I said last week, I've got my vaccinations. I never stopped wearing a mask. I'm doing my part. I'm taking this shit as seriously as I can and still trying to live something close to a normal life. But
could you do a share screen for me? I'm trying to share my screen.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Okay, yeah, there it is.
Okay. So in order to find this, all you have to do is do COVID cases US, right?
Right.
So what I want you to look at is the new cases spike is it looks like the beginning of a goddamn parabolic nightmare, right?
Right.
This is horrible. This slant right here is, similar to this uptick right here.
Right.
It looks like that's what we're headed in. The good news, the part that makes this all the sensationalism that you're seeing kind of different, what the anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers are going to play on right now is when you look at the deaths, that uptick kind of softens.
Right.
Because the vaccines are working.
Which is why people should get fucking vaccinated, right? It's so obvious.
We're better at treating cases that are unvaccinated as well. We know what to do now. And so even though we have this spike that happened, the last spike of cases of deaths, we're not seeing as strong of a correlation with the deaths, which is great, but it's still it's going to feed the anti-maskers.
Okay. I see what you're saying. You're basically suggesting that because of the deaths are nowhere near as frightening every day as they were, say, this time last year, for example.
Yeah.
That people are going to go, hey, it's getting better, so I don't have to worry.
And what I'm saying is, death isn't the only thing that COVID can do to you.
Absolutely.
Not death means that as a therapist, I'm going to have a lot of money coming my way from all of the mental health problems that lack of oxygen to the brain is going to cause. So ka-ching for me, because you're not dead and I get to see you. But it's still something where I would not want kids to catch it, and they'll say, oh well, kids hardly get anything from it, they hardly ever die, and I'm like, no. There are case studies about the long haul kids and what it's doing to their health, and I don't want anyone to get it. I don't want anyone to get this.
And it seems to be, if I'm understanding what I'm seeing on the news at the moment, the Delta variant seems to be more virulent against children than the original strain of coronavirus was. And so I don't know, because schools are about to open back up. And in some states like Texas and Florida, they have mandated that you cannot mandate masks in schools. And I actually cannot understand how they can even pretend such a rule is in the public interest. So because masks don't hurt a goddamn thing.
I sent Raven a TikTok video about this, about a Florida state congressman who was against masks in public schools. And when his own constituents complained to him, he actually advertised to them private schools that were allowed to have mask mandates, because they're not trying to introduce legislation that will restrict the private schools, just the public ones.
And that's the thing, is their issue isn't the mask mandates and COVID. They don't give a shit about that. What they're trying to do is defund public schools. They want people to use the voucher program and go to private schools. That way, you can be taught all kinds of right-wing bullshit, nonsense, Christian bullshit, and everything else, because they're not subject to a lot of the constitutional shit public schools are subject to. So you defund the public schools, that's a shit ton of money that's no longer being spent. So,
right. Yeah. Thank goodness Betsy DeVos is no longer the Secretary of Education, because that whole agenda was in high gear with her. That was one of her main priorities.
But it still is with the different congressmen in the different states. That's why they passed those laws that they can't mandate any masks. Because when people complain, they're going to tell them, go to private school. You can get a voucher. That's what they're doing. They're pushing the voucher program in order to defund the public school.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just read this comment over here.
Bill?
When Trump was president, admittedly, yeah, Bill, I might add hypocrisy much. The virus was the modern day plague. Oh my God, now only we will hear about it overblown whoop-de-doo. I'm not saying the coronavirus isn't serious, but what Michael just pointed out is that the deaths are not as correspondent to the rising cases as they used to be. And I think that is kind of what I was trying to say, is there seems to be a disparity in the way it's been reported. That's all. It has nothing to
Yeah,
do
I
with.
don't know. People who
I'm not
mock,
suggesting for 1 second that the coronavirus isn't serious or isn't real or whatever. You know, I'm just saying. You know,
people. I'm sorry. I mean, if I had the power to kick that motherfucker, I would, because people who mock the virus or its seriousness or pretend that it's a fucking hoax, they can suck my dick and die in a fire. Fuck you, Bill. I don't know who you are, but fuck you. Fuck you so hard that your ancestors feel it. Fuck you so hard that you never recover from it. Go fuck yourself, you fucking scumbag piece of shit douche.
When
Anyway.
you're getting that vocal coaching, I hope that there's some lesson that says never say things like "suck my dick."
As long as I still have one.
That's pretty funny. I have to smoke this outside because I've got the granddaughters over, so I'll be right back. Keep it up.
Oh, it's just you and me, Raven. We're on a video call after like 100 other guys weren't allowed to be on a video call with you. I get the call.
It's insane.
It's an
It's
honor.
crazy.
So roses are red, no lives are blue, defund the police, and abolish ICE 2.
There you go.
Poetry,
okay, I don't know.
That'll speak to you.
Cheryl, if you're watching, type into the chat or leave a comment on Facebook just so I know you're here. Sorry, I have a friend who said that she was going to watch, and I don't know if she's here or not because I haven't seen her.
Yeah. I've got a friend that you can't see too. No. Yeah, so I got restricted on one of my videos this week from the country of Pakistan by request of the government. I got restricted on my video. I couldn't believe it. Like a government request. Problem?
Sorry. Can you hear that?
Oh yeah. Shush, keep it down now. Voices carry. You know how I could tell that you were Italian, or at least Polish?
How?
Campbell soup tomato red.
The
Hi, what I
walls.
missed?
Yes, the walls, the shirt, your hair is glowing. All of it made me think of Campbell's tomato soup, which, you know, I know the tablecloths in Italian restaurants are all that color, you know. So, Paul, you are part of the reason why I got a government request from the government of Pakistan to block one of my videos in Pakistan this week.
Please elaborate.
So yesterday I got a message on my phone, said that I had a government request to block my video, and it was from the country of Pakistan. And what happened was, 11 fucking years ago, you made a video saying the nicest way to participate in the Draw Muhammad contest was to draw a stick figure. So I did. And in my video, I actually named you 11 fucking years ago as the inspiration for that stick figure. And that video right now is blocked in the country of Pakistan by order of the Pakistani government to YouTube.
Wow. I wonder if any of my videos are blocked in Pakistan or any other countries, because I've got a video compilation of all those Muhammad videos. I made a Draw Muhammad Day video that had like 100 of them on it. So yeah, I don't know, man.
Your
So
fault.
here's what I want to know. Who in the Pakistani government saw your video?
I think they might have heard of the whole Draw Muhammad movement, and they might have just did a search, and then anybody who had Draw Muhammad as their video title, they probably just flagged, without watching, just flagged them all.
Right. Wow.
Anyway, Bill's in the chat saying that we don't need to be talking about that. We need to change the subject.
So Draw Muhammad was really cool. You know, I like the fact that no, the have you seen this man thing, which was really just supposed to be stick figures, but did toward the end get a little bit out of control. You know, I actually was really proud of that. But then when the Draw Muhammad thing came along later on, it turned into just a really big sort of anti-Islamic fucking hate fest, which I couldn't really get behind. So, yeah.
I have been part of movements that later on I didn't really find myself aligning with. So I understand. I like to break bread with a lot of people now.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry, I just have to interrupt for a second because I'm so amused by this person. Feel free to block inconvenient opinions by all means. Y'all don't know me very well. You can be as stupid as you want. As long as you're not racist, I'm not going to block you. But you can be stupid. You're allowed to be stupid on the Breakfast Club. Haven't you noticed? There's plenty of stupid people. In the chat.
Okay. Well, maybe when Joe gets here, he can get his wish.
Yeah, well, I got very little sort of like respect for the opinions of people who don't have the guts to put their face to their opinions on a camera and put it on the internet. Because if you're gonna take criticism for doing what we're doing, fine. I'm happy to take criticism. But if someone just hides behind a little fucking picture and never puts their face to their opinions on the internet, I don't really think I have to take them very seriously. Yeah. Because opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and they're usually full of shit. So. Oh, he was talking to the Green Machine. In that case, I don't retract anything except for my intention. Anyway. So what else has been going on this week, folks? Because honestly, I have not really been paying very much attention.
There was a appropriations bill that was going through Congress that a couple of my friends in the that other topic of cryptocurrency, they were worried about because a lot of little writers got put in at the last minute, and the public can't really keep up with all of that sort of corruption, and neither could maybe even the politicians themselves. When something gets introduced like right at the last minute and it's so long that there's no possible way anyone could read it, but that was happening this week. There's the writer will make anyone who is a staker or a cryptocurrency miner into they'll fall into the definition of a stockbroker, basically. And so,
okay. They have that puts them under a certain amount of regulations. Is that why they do it?
Yeah. And also, it costs money for you to get the legal ability to be a stockbroker. $50,000 maybe. And not all of those people have that sort of money, so it'll kind of knock some people out of the market if it goes through.
Wow.
But I'm sure there's other writers that are just in there just with surprises that haven't just, found their movement, or someone loud enough to say, hey, look at this crap. Everybody's too busy worried about quomosexuals.
That's pretty funny. I completely avoid the whole cryptocurrency thing myself, just because I find it all like really confusing. It's changed too often for me to keep up with it, and I think in order to keep up with it, you have to be really, really into it, and I'm just not. So
the part of it that I find distasteful, even as somebody who owns a bit of it, there's this dream of getting rich quick that a lot of people who got into it are trying to satisfy. It's just like gambling addiction. It's that dream of getting rich quick that drives people. And I actually have more of a drive now to try to make more money than I could at cryptocurrency, just with my regular job and like side jobs, just to feel better about myself, because I don't want to be chasing get rich quick schemes. You know, there's a healthier way to live your life, and that's just make money by providing some useful service to the world, or some art, or some product, and not try to just find where you could like invest $2 and then come out a millionaire 10 years later. There's so many different things that are trying to take your $2, and maybe one or two of them are actually going to pan out, but there's more than enough places that they're just trying to take your money. And
that's right. That's always been the way at Wall Street. I mean, that's the same with the whole junk bond thing back in the day.
And there are still people who try to buy up junk bonds, penny stocks, players, and all that.
So, okay, Kick Bill. So, I mean, he's just in there spreading lies about COVID. And I mean, he's saying things that are literally false.
Okay, do you think Bill's a bot? Because I will kick Bill.
No, I think he's a douchebag.
Okay, no. There we go.
Misinformation. Fuck that. No. Fucking assholes. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It's all right. No, I am happy to defer to the sensibilities of my other hosts. Sometimes, I mean, personally, I don't like kicking people for being stupid, but you're right. Considering the circumstances, disinformation is not something I want the Breakfast Club to be a part of. So
this week, I had to run a therapy session based on empathy. It was the same group I had to run 8 different times this week. And one of the things that is an example of like, can you still feel empathy for this person? One that I used straight from the news was a guy who tweeted out, "I got 99 problems, but a vaccine ain't one." And then 2 weeks later, he was dead of COVID.
Right.
So do you have empathy for somebody who was an anti-vaxxer that was vocal about it and preached it in his church, to all of his flock to not get the vaccine, and then he died of it? Do you still have empathy for him as a human being?
Yeah. People are stupid sometimes. I mean, I have empathy for people who let their toddlers handle firearms and the kid shoots their other kid. You know what I mean? I mean, it's stupid and it's their fault, but I still feel really sorry for them. You know what I mean? I can't help it,
Yeah, I mean, I would feel bad that the kid didn't shoot them.
The easier go-to for me is actually sex offenders. Do you have empathy for them and what they have to go through, just to get by in the world because they're not getting a good job ever? Do you feel bad for them? Can you put yourself in their shoes and like feel bad for their situation of always, applying for a job and then getting told, well, maybe not?
I couldn't put myself in their shoes though.
Not even for the part about, hearing back from a job and getting rejected.
Well, I mean, it's the reason that they're getting rejected. I mean, it all goes back to that. So, I mean, you're talking like a sex offender who most of the time is either somebody who sexually assaulted someone, raped someone, or was a kitty toucher. the latter more than anyone else deserves whatever the fuck they get. And I can't put myself in their shoes because I couldn't even ever consider. Yeah, no, fuck them. I mean, they were to begin with, so fuck them.
I do know people who are on the sex offender registry for peeing in public.
I was gonna say now there's like Megan's Law was one of the, I don't know if it's still, if that one's still active or not, but some of them are crazy because, like, okay, there was a time, and I don't know if it's still that way, where a straight couple, a man and a woman, could be in a car somewhere dark, parked in the darkness under a tree somewhere, minding their own business and getting it on, and a cop comes along, knocks on the window, and tells them, "Hey, you can't be here. Go, get out of here." And it wouldn't be that big of a deal. They would either go get a room or they'd find someplace else to park and get back to business. At the same time, that same cop on a different street could come across a car with two men getting it on, and they would be arrested, and they would be publicly humiliated, and they would be put on a sex registry, and they would have to go to court and the whole deal for doing something that was no different than what the straight couple was doing. And those people, ended up being on that sex registry list, the sex offender list, for whatever it was, the years it took for their name to come off, and they did nothing wrong. So a lot of those things, the registries, there's all kinds of flaws with those. I kind of think they're bullshit. But that wasn't what the original question was.
No.
The original question was a sex offender. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk about somebody who's an actual real offender.
It's not 100% as far as like the people who can't have empathy for them, that themselves, they're not sex offenders, but they can still have that empathy. But it's a pretty good chance that you're going to get like 8 out of 10 in the room will say, no, I cannot have empathy for that person.
Right.
There's also a 40% chance if I pull out a garter snake that half the room, 40% will just be scared of the snake.
True.
And it's just a visceral reaction that, like, it's hardwired in people. It's hard to get past. But I can tell you that it's easier for me to find somebody addiction treatment, like putting them in a treatment center, if they're a sex offender, than if they're an arsonist. Because insurance companies that insure the facilities, they exclude assault and battery charges, and they also exclude arson charges. So if someone fell asleep with their crack pipe and it sets the couch on fire, and they get charged with arson because half an apartment complex goes up, that person, I cannot get them treatment anywhere because nowhere is going to take them. If they have an arson charge, it's impossible. Throw your hands up. Sex offender, I know like a whole bunch, like a handful right off the top of my head that I can send people, and they would still take them. So yeah, that's the insurance companies telling us how to practice medicine there, as far as making the decisions for the treatment centers, who can and can't go.
Wow, man. By the way, don't answer this if it breaks professional ethics, but do you get many arsonists in your line of work?
I get many people who have felonies, and I've become a bit of an expert in career counseling as far as how to take someone from rock bottom, get them a job, get them into a sober home, get them a halfway house, and move all the way up to just having their own apartment, and where to find the felon-friendly jobs. Even an arsonist or a sex offender can find a job at a Chili's or an Applebee's today by walking in and saying, hey, do you need a dishwasher? And then if they don't need one there, that you can tell them, okay, can you call the other locations? And then it's just a bus right over there to having a job today washing dishes, and that can pay the bills at the end of the month.
Right.
But yeah, I've even led people into felon-friendly jobs that paid better than my job for a while. There are forklift positions in like distribution centers that are felon-friendly, paid better than some of the jobs I had. So yeah, I've worked with a lot of different types of felonies. I mean, what drives people to being homeless and trying to get out of the feeling of being homeless by using a lot of drugs? It's being labeled with a felony.
Right.
That felony label does not make my job easier.
Right. Do you think is it valid to wonder whether there's too many things that are crimes that are actual felonies? If you know what I mean? I mean, is it too easy to become a felon? I mean, like, let me put it to you a different way. Can you have felony convictions where you haven't done anything violent or destructive? Right. The answer is yes, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. And so should there be some sort of like degrees of felonies, or because once it's a felony, that's a whole bunch of your rights that are just like erased, right? Or seriously impaired anyway.
The best example I have for you, directly related to my job, because I do a lot of DUI therapy, is on the 4th DUI, it's a felony. Doesn't matter if you hit anything, doesn't matter if you killed anybody. 4th DUI, if you get pulled over, it's felony in the state of Colorado. So, and they even count DUIs from other states when they're making that assessment. So, if you yelled at a judge and they, banged the gavel and said you're in contempt, and then you kept yelling and maybe struck the bailiff and you just kept yelling, you're going to get a felony.
Right.
There's lots of different things that you could do that are, just reiterations of the same crime, where they said, well, you have a blatant disregard for the law, it's a felony.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what I think about that, really. Like I say, it's just because I don't know.
When I look at the way that our prisons are filled and the way that we have more people in prison per capita than other countries, yeah, I think we do have too many ways to become a felon. We're really, really good at finding people who fit our definitions of what a felony should be. I don't think it's just that Americans are just more given to committing crimes than everybody else. I mean, Australia was supposed to be a penal colony. They're not sending their people to prison as much as we are. What the fuck's up with that? If anyone was genetically predisposed to have more people in their population that would be going to prison, it would be people who started as a penal colony.
Yeah, you would think so, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, we've got this massive prison population in America, and a lot of that population is in private prisons and so forth. And I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I imagine if they let everybody out for nonviolent drug offenses, it'd be a pretty huge number of people. And if they did that concurrent with legalizing or at the very least decriminalizing marijuana, I think because the drug war is just clearly causes more problems than it solves. And I think it's long past time to end it. But you can't end the drug war and keep all the people in prison for breaking those laws.
It's you got two different issues there that go hand in hand. You've got the drug war, and then you've got for-profit prisons. I mean, prisons should never be. Sorry, the penal system should never be for-profit. You can't incentivize locking your citizens up. That makes no sense.
To me, that's so self-evident. I can't believe it ever happened in the first place. You know what I mean?
I think it also goes to the point of the difference between things that are in and of themselves inherently wrong, and things that are just prohibited by law to the point of felony. You know, if there's, you know, an example of somebody who's in jail right now for something that is no longer illegal, you know, but we're keeping them in prison or in jail because they broke the law as it was back then I don't like that situation. We're basically saying that the law as it was back then is more important than what
I
it's
agree.
ethically right to do. But we have people in jail for things that they could not be charged with right now, or would not be prosecuted right now.
Well, I don't know. There's so many different things that go along with the drug war. It's not just the prison population. It's all the other stuff that goes along with it. And so many states now have legalized either medical or complete recreational as well. I think the number total is something like 35 out of 50 states now. So that's 2/3, right? And I just think it's way past time for the rest of the country to just go, you know what? Let's make some money. And because that's what's really going on with the states that have legalized. You know, they're doing very well with income over it.
Marijuana was legalized here in New Jersey, and we still don't have pot shops. They still don't have any kind of like regulations. They're just taking forever, and they're dragging their feet. And more towns across the state are opting out of having anything to do with it, and you know, not taking part in the revenue. It's kind of crazy.
It's interesting to me that because the revenue argument should persuade anybody who's a genuine conservative, right? If you're genuinely a conservative, there's a free market, right? And the free market is, if there's a demand, there should be a supply, right? That's capitalism in a nutshell, you know?
Yeah, but they only care about the free market for things that they care about. That's always the way it works.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's got to be true, you know? But I mean, what are they all own stock in Budweiser or something? I mean, what's the issue, really? I don't know.
Closer to a confidentiality issue, but I can speak of it in general terms. I have many clients that the only reason why they have seen me presently or in the past is because they were on probation for something else. So when you're on probation or parole, things that normally would be legal for you to use are illegal. They can tell you can't use cannabis. They can tell you that you can't use alcohol, and they can test for both of them. And some people don't understand that there's actually a test for urine test for alcohol use now. That, you know, it picks up the metabolites. Some people get caught while they're on probation thinking that they can drink because it's not a drug. It is, but they think that it's not. And so they find the alcohol metabolites, and then they become my client for something that's legal for everybody else to do, but because they're on probation, they can't do it.
Right.
So there are people who they for whatever reason get involved with human services. It could be, you know, they were taking care of an elderly person and somebody called human services. Could be somebody called about a thing with their kids. And then as part of that workup, they get urinalysis, and cannabis gets found in their system. Something that's legal for people to use. Then all of a sudden, as one of the things that will get them their situation to go back to normal and get DHS out of their lives, they have to stop using cannabis. Go attend substance use therapy for things that are legal otherwise, but because they're involved with the criminal justice system for a different thing, or because they're involved with human services for a different thing, all of a sudden those things become not allowable. and it's a big source of revenue for a lot of different agencies.
Right.
As soon as you become stuck in the system, there are so many different people with their hand out wanting to get paid because you made a mistake. So many different steps along the way, trying to bleed you dry, nickel and dime at a time.
Wow, that's a pretty sobering thought. No pun intended. Uh-oh. Where'd you go? Anyway, what else was I going to talk about? I can't even remember. My brain is just really freaking. I've had the granddaughters all day, and I'll tell you what, man, I love it, but it really wears you down. Yeah. Yeah. Just as an aside, Michael, while we're waiting for Raven, oh, here's Raven. I was just going to say, so we've got like a little ATV bobcat, right? That you can drive around on the property for, whatever reason. And let little girls steering the bobcat and they feel like they're like king of the world or whatever, queen of the world, I guess I should say. But I mean, like, it's really empowering. They super confident now, just from steering the wheel, like it's the most grown up thing they've probably ever done. Yeah. It's great fun though. Anyway, yeah, welcome back. I don't even know what else is going on in the world. I really, really don't. I'm sorry. I feel lame today. I really do.
There's been a lot of Olympic stuff.
Huh?
There's been a lot of Olympic stuff.
Oh, right. Well, we did talk a little bit about that last week, but I mean, like, I noticed that Simone Biles won a bronze in her last thing, and I suppose it's cool that she jumped back into the competition, although people seem to be complaining about that as well, which I find ironic. The same people that complained about her pulling out complained about her jumping back in at the end, and I'm just like, what the hell is your problem? Right? But the other thing is cool, because last week when we talked about her pulling out, and since then, some of the people who were on the American team still won gold medals in the things that Simone Biles would have won a gold in. So it's not like America lost out on the chance to get gold medals in those competitions. It's just that Simone Biles let someone else have a chance, really. That's the way I look at it.
Well, if you could imagine that there might be some crossover between people who care about the Olympics and racists, we have a conundrum, because right now the U.S. is like 2 gold medals behind China. And there's like 1 more day left of the Olympics for us to beat China. Because if we don't beat China, then our racists in our own country will be sad that we weren't number 1 in everything around the world. We have the most medals right now, but we don't have the most gold medals.
Right.
We need 2 more to tie China.
But what if China keeps getting more during the same period of time? Then we're kind of stuck, right?
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that I'm okay with there not being like an equitable dispersion of the medals. Like historically, the United States has done very well, and what that tells me is, well, maybe the rest of the world is just impoverished and it's harder for them to train. Like, guess who just won a silver medal in equestrian races? Bruce Springsteen's daughter. And so, like, I imagine the reason why she was able to be involved with horses her whole life was because her father was rich, and so now she goes and gets a silver medal. Really, that silver medal is because her father was rich and famous.
It's always been the case, Mike. I mean, that's always been true. I mean, once upon a time, hell, it's still true. Skiing in the Winter Olympics, as you know, skiing is an expensive hobby to have. And to be able to ski often enough to become an expert, you're probably pretty affluent, or at least have access to, you live on the bloody resort or something. You know what I mean? Because yeah, it's too expensive of an occupation. It is necessarily elitist, by virtue of how expensive it is.
True.
On the other hand, I doubt that it costs very much to buy a discus. You know what I mean? So not all sports are the same.
I haven't ever gone skiing.
Shut the front door. What?
To me, it seems like a class thing, maybe, that I just grew up in the class of people that don't go skiing.
I grew up.
I've put a snowboard on and snowboarded like in little snowballs, but no skiing.
I grew up and still live in a ski town. I've never been skiing.
Wow.
Or snowboarding.
Well, I intend to try learning how to snowboard at some point, but I haven't really been skiing for like 35 years, But back in those days, it wasn't so expensive. It didn't seem to be so expensive. You rented some skis and you skied for a day, and it was like, you're all in for like $40 or whatever. Whereas now, a day ticket at the slopes not far from here, like $100 a day, just to get on the bloody slopes. That doesn't include any of your equipment or the travel or the lodgings or anything else. I mean, it just, to me, that's too much. And don't get me wrong, I understand they got to cover the expenses of running the resort, but I don't know. It just seems like this deliberately elitist. And then, of course, you get places like Aspen, Colorado, or Sun Valley in Idaho, where it's most definitely deliberately elitist, and everything there is so expensive that even the people who work there can't live there because it's too expensive. Everything in town is too expensive. So people who work there have to live out of town. I don't know if it's that way in Aspen, but it's definitely that way in Sun Valley.
So
if you live in a ski town, do you literally just like not want to know what it's like, or you just have never got around to it? For what reason?
I never had any interest. I mean, the school had a ski club where the kids would go skiing. I just had no interest. I didn't take part in that kind of stuff. Did not care.
Yeah, fair enough.
Was it the people that were skiing?
Some of them, yeah. Yeah.
That was it for you, Michael?
It is a class thing too, though. I mean, because I it's not all that big of a deal now. Times have changed, kind of a thing. But this town used to have a lot of money. Back in the 80s, there was a lot of money in this town.
Yeah. Proctor Hawk asked, skiing is elitist? Oh, I like it now. I don't necessarily think it's de facto elitist. It's just that there's an awful lot of places where you can go skiing that are like deliberately hyper expensive. So they're pricing a lot of people out of the market. Hell, even not far from where I'm at right now in Breckenridge. I was in Breckenridge in April, right at the end of the ski season. And honestly, I just can't believe how expensive everything is in that town. I mean, everything was expensive. And that's because they know they've got you. You're doing your thing, and I think, as I say, when everything's expensive, you're pricing a lot of people out of your market. And I think they do it on purpose.
You don't see a lot of homeless people in Aspen. I mean, there's ski bums. There definitely are ski bums. But, you don't see, people flying a sign saying, anything helps, God bless.
Right.
You don't see that at all.
Yeah, I've never been to Aspen. And I've only been to Sun Valley one time. And that was an eye-opening experience in a lot of different ways. You're driving along on the way into Sun Valley, and there's a little tiny airport, because Sun Valley is not a big place, but there's a little tiny airport, and it's got 50 or 60 Lear jets parked there. It's that's the only planes that are there. And it's basically a billionaire playground up there. And that's why everything's expensive. They want to keep certain types of people out. So yeah, I do think it can be elitist, although I don't think it's de facto elitist. I think there's definitely ski resorts that are elitist on purpose, you know.
So in that general area, there's something else more important going on right now, and it's tied to global warming. Hear me out here. We've had all these wildfires. You know, we're kind of covered in smoke right now. The air quality's poor in Denver, but we're basically breathing California right now. But there was a fire last year around a place called Hanging Lake, which is a treasure in Colorado. It's one of the places that everybody wants to visit. You have to get on a waiting list to be able to go up there now, right? Hanging Lake is beautiful, and there was a forest fire that happened around it, and that's on I-70. And Glenwood Springs, where that forest fire was located, had a landslide, and it covered both lanes for the interstate for I-70, and we don't know when it's going to reopen. So the interstate between Denver and Grand Junction is covered, and everything has to divert around it, right? Which creates slowdowns in shipping, shipping times and whatnot. Really hurts the economy because nothing can go straight through the Rockies, and we don't know when it's going to be clear.
Wow.
Right? Everybody's worried about homosexuals. But what they should be worried about is we're breathing California. It doesn't taste good. And we're having mudslides that are the result of forest fires that, burn up all the ground's ability to hold the water.
Right.
The roots of the trees that usually hold all that erosion from happening.
Right.
So the erosion causes these giant mudslides that's covering interstates. It's bad.
Yeah, I see the pictures on the news yesterday of some of the fires going on out west, and it's the one in California that burned down the city of Greenville, or the town of Greenville. And this morning, because when we woke up, I mean, I live on a mountain ridge, as you know, Michael, and you can barely see across the canyon to the next ridge. I mean, just barely. The air quality is so bad. And this morning, my gal read on her news feed that the air quality in Salt Lake City yesterday was the worst of any city in the world, including like Mexico City and Lima and Dubai and all kinds of cities that you can think of that are heavily polluted. Salt Lake City right now has the worst air in the world because all the California smoke. I mean, when you look at the satellite photograph right now of the smoke coming from the biggest fire in California, it literally covers the whole state of Nevada and almost all of Utah and a good 2/3 or 3/4 of Colorado right now. And last week they were seeing some of that smoke in New York City, So I guess it really depends on which way the jet stream is wagging at the moment. But right now it's wagging right over us because honestly, I can't even see the flats at all right now. And normally that would be really easy to see from up here. And I don't know what to do about it, because I grew up my dad was a fire chief in the town I grew up in. So, and every summer my dad would have to go away and help fight some of the wildfires that would happen in and around Sonoma County in California. But back in those days, those were, a couple thousand acres seemed like a really big fire. Well, now we've got fires burning that are hundreds of thousands of acres or tens of thousands of acres in other cases. And, I don't know what's going to happen because this is global. Whoops! I forgot you could add yourself, Joe. This is global warming in action. I remember back around the early 90s, people were saying, "Oh, in the next 20 to 30 years." Well, we're here now. We're there. And what's happening on the West Coast over the past 5 or 6 summers is the most obvious and direct example the immediate effects of global warming. And if this is how bad it is now, what's it going to be like by 2050? You know?
Yeah. Well, what pisses me off is there's still right wingers acting like, oh, there's nothing, and it's like because basically they have this straw man argument of what climate change was going to be, and so since we haven't reached the level of their straw man argument, that therefore nothing's happening now. It's like wake the fuck up. It's happening now.
Yeah, we're not in the movie The Day After Tomorrow, right? I mean, that's the thing. It was never going to happen that fast. I mean, they, even when they made that movie, they said they're accelerating things by hundreds of years.
Right.
And, but no, the thing that really bothers me is like, say 20 years, let's just say 30 years ago. 30 years ago is when I first started hearing the term global warming. That was before they decided to change it to climate change. They used to say global warming. And they talked about the different effects that there was possibly going to be, and that they would probably kick in around about the end of the 21st century. Well, we're still in the first fifth. Well, I suppose we're now in the second fifth of the 21st century. But I mean, the effects of climate change are kind of obvious to me now. And the thing is, as obvious as they are to me now, I couldn't have imagined, say, even 15 years ago, that the West Coast was going to burn like this every goddamn summer. And so where I'm going with this is that was beyond the scope of my imagination 20 years ago. So beyond the scope of our imaginations now is it going to be like in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? You know what I mean? Things that we thought we could predict, it's going to be worse than that. I really, really feel strongly it's actually going to be worse than what we thought.
True, and the other thing was a lot of things that the right wing was doing is that somebody calculated like what the peak sea level rise will be, and it's like a dozen or more feet. But like, well, again, we're not there yet, but we are seeing the sea level rise. Coastal areas, they're losing so many inches of beachfront every year. Now, some of that's due to erosion, but even there, that erosion is due to climate-related changes. But the other is actually due to sea level rise. So it is. It was predicted, and it's happening now.
But I mean, in North Carolina, they made it a law that they can't talk about the coastal erosion for like real estate purposes, which is fucking ridiculous. If you're buying beachfront property, you can't be told by law.
How can telling the truth be illegal? That's what I don't understand.
Well, that's the thing. How does it not violate the First Amendment?
Right.
And the thing is, it goes to show you when you turn. This is why I say, like, when people go on about capitalism, like, no, what we're living, this is not capitalism. This is some other messed up version of it, because this thing that like we only do things that are pro the business community, and we don't do anything for labor or only anything for the consumer. That's the other part. That's the triad. It's all part of it, and so it's clear that they're it has nothing to do with an actual free market. This is just corporatism.
I don't want to get off of our climate change subject, but I do remember talking about last week a different situation where a realtor said certain things about a neighborhood, and we didn't say that was against her First Amendment rights to free speech to say those things about the neighborhood, because we all thought that what she was seeing was racist. So we weren't worried about her free speech at that time. But
right. But
if we're going to hold up the free speech of telling people, hey, you maybe don't not buy here because of global warming, then maybe we necessarily have to not intrude when somebody wants to say, hey, don't buy there, undesirables are going to ruin your property value.
Well, first off, it's not really. It's kind of a self-fulfilling thing. But two, I mean, the difference is one's biased and the other's not. I mean, telling people that hey, the property you're buying is going to through regardless of who lives there is going to be constantly getting closer to being underwater, and you're going to have bigger storm surges. And this is physical. This has nothing to do with the ethnic group or the religion of the person who lives there or anything like that. Now, one thing I do think is kind of ridiculous is that apparently realtors are not allowed to tell you what churches are in, what houses of worship are in your area. They can't even provide that information, which is ridiculous, because it's one thing, like, they say, okay, we want them to start asking people because you don't want them to suss out who you are and try to be biased against you. But on the other hand, if they have a list that they can hand you and say, hey, here's all the houses of worship, I don't think there's any bias in that.
Well, in my state, we have a very good sex offender registry that you can look up and see how many sex offenders are in your neighborhood. And you might be put off from a neighborhood at first. The first few houses that you look at that have sex offenders in the neighborhood, you're like, wait, no, I don't want to live like 3 streets down from a sex offender. Try living anywhere, because they're everywhere. The map has blips everywhere, but at least you would know if your exact neighbor, right next door was going to be a sex offender. But
which is pretty messed up when you think of it, like how sick our society is that there's that many sex offenders out there.
Yeah, and you can even see what their general charges were, and it's pretty sick to see like how many of the horrible charges are in each neighborhood. Some states don't have sex offender registries that you can look at like that. Ours has it mapped like Google Maps, pinpoints that you can see exactly where they are, which to me would lend itself to vigilante justice if it weren't for the fact that they're everywhere. What are you going to do?
That actually happened in the UK when I lived there back in the 90s, Michael. They started putting these addresses out in the public, and long story short, I think it was in the city of Southampton. I could be wrong, but I think that was right. The newspaper put out the address of some registered sex offender, and there was a group of people who went around the house and were basically calling for the people to come out or whatever. And long story short, they set the house on fire from the outside to drive the people out. And it turned out that it was actually the next door neighbor's house that was the pedophile, not the house that they burned down. So they burned down the wrong house completely. And it wouldn't have been okay if it was the pedophile's house, in my opinion. Pedophiles have got to live somewhere. And frankly, if you've served your time, see, my whole attitude is about sex offenders. If you really think they're still dangerous, don't let them out of prison. To me, it's that simple. If they're still dangerous, why are they out? You know what I mean? So, it's a different kind of crime, if you ask me, because I'm not educated enough, but it seems to me that some people can't be cured. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're wired to think that 3-year-olds are sexy, I'm not sure how to fix that with prison, And I just think putting someone away for 5 years or 10 years isn't going to fix that. And so letting them out after that without fixing it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, there are therapies that, there are therapists that work with that kind of stuff specifically. But there are some sorts of mental health disorders that cannot be cured. We don't have any therapy for it.
Right.
Might be a better case for those cases never being let out. But we have our laws and what sort of felonies equals how much time, and once people serve their time, what do you want to do?
Well, that's my argument too. See, that's what I'm saying. If you've served your time, you've paid your dues, you should be free. And by being free, I also mean that you shouldn't even be on a stupid registry. You should be free. You paid your dues.
Well, the thing is, though, a lot of people get. I kind of equate it. I get your point. I kind of equate it to being on parole, right? When you're on parole, you're out of jail, but your sentence isn't technically over.
But and with all due respect, man, it's like you're waiting for someone to commit the crime again. And that's almost like admitting you know it's going to happen, and therefore it's almost like admitting you know they shouldn't be out. So to me, it's I don't know. Maybe I'm convoluting it, but that's how it feels.
Well, no. I mean, I think you're right to a point. I mean, certainly, when you let somebody out on parole, you're basically saying, "Hey, we're letting you out. Your sentence isn't complete, though, but because you've violated our trust before, we don't trust you yet. So we're going to keep a staunch eye on you and make sure that you stay on the straight and narrow, or else you're going back in the clink because you're basically proving that you shouldn't have been trusted in the first place. Was basically what we're saying. So it's very similar to that. But I do think but the biggest problem is though a lot of people who go in who maybe they could be treated, they just don't get the treatment. That's the problem. Is that we don't treat them because private prisons and money and all this kind of stuff, and this Calvinistic idea about who does and does not deserve another chance or to be rehabilitated. And I think that's a sickness, because basically once you get the idea that inherently somebody is without even trying or attempting to rehabilitate, that someone is just beyond help. That's such a toxic way to look at it, and you see you're writing people off. And again, I can see that somebody may get to that point where you say, "Hey, look, we've tried, and this person's just not gonna get better. They're just not gonna." But we don't even really try, and this is the reason why we have a 70% recidivism rate compared to 10 or 20% in Scandinavian countries.
Right. Yeah, I mean but when it comes to like offenses against children in particular, it's just like I say, it's a really tough one, because letting people out without being sure that they're no longer a danger to society, it just seems. I guess you can never be really sure. Maybe. I don't know. I just have mixed feelings about it. That's all. It's a hard one.
Part of the reason why we have a high recidivism rate for not just that, but all crimes, is because of the way that we stigmatize people who have had committed crimes in the past. And so they end up living in a different part of town because they get run out of other parts of town. They can't get jobs. They can't rehabilitate themselves. The label sticks to them.
Right.
If they don't find me along their journey, they're going to have a lot harder time with rehabilitation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's part of the problem we have in general. I mean, the whole prison model, this idea, if we're just abusive enough to somebody, that eventually they'll stop being bad or doing bad things. It rarely, if ever, works. But I've run into so many people that they feel that, well, that person did something wrong, so they don't deserve. A lot of people don't even think they deserve due process for any crime. This is the reason why people were perfectly fine with Eric Garner being, executed by strangulation on a public street for selling loose cigarettes, the high crime, But and I think I might have mentioned this in a previous hangout, but I had this conversation with some right-wing idiot years ago, and I got him to acknowledge. He acknowledged that the recidivism rates between here and Scandinavia, those were real numbers. He acknowledged that if he was willing to put the money in to treat convicts differently and do that more holistic approach, he acknowledged that would reduce crime overall, and he acknowledged that would make him and his property and his family safer. And he still wasn't willing to do it because they don't deserve it. And I'm like, dumbass, it's not for them, it's for you. It makes your life better. Helping that guy who did something wrong makes your life better. You have a vested self-interest in helping that other person, and you still won't do it.
Yeah, that's concept is called enlightened self-interest. You know what I mean? And basically by helping someone to not be a criminal anymore, you improve the quality of life for your whole community. I mean, to me, it's sort of simple, right?
Right.
And like you say, it's interesting because it's not just in America. There's plenty of parts in the world where we're sort of locked into this idea that punishment has merit, that there's some sort of something positive to be derived from punishment per se. And I don't know how I feel about it, because on the one hand, I was raised like that too. I mean, I got punished and et cetera, whatever. But I don't necessarily think it gets the desired results. It really depends on the person. I think some people might respond to punishment better than others, I guess, because I think sometimes maybe going to prison is a deterrent for some people, but for other people who I've spoken to personally, and I know I've mentioned this in previous jamborees, but I mean, I've met people who didn't find prison all that bad. And I'm thinking, God, how shit must your normal life be if prison isn't that bad? So, yeah, there's lots of different ways to look at it. In Scandinavia, like Joe was mentioning, the Scandinavian countries, and I mean, in Norway, they have a 1 in 5 repeat offending rate compared to almost 3 out of 4 in America, right? So it's considerably less. And their entire focus is on putting you back into the community and making sure that you don't commit more crimes. It's all about healing society and not about punishing the individual, really, in any way that we would normally think of as punishment. And it's interesting because they do have also, not by coincidence, a high standard of living in Norway, right? And so, quite frankly, being deprived of your liberty is punishment. Being told what time to get up and what time to go to bed and what you have to eat and what you have to do, that's punishment, because you're not a free person, But again, like I say, some people have a normal life, which is so damn rough that prison isn't that much worse by comparison. And so, they're willing to take the chance. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing, and unfortunately, a lot of right wingers, their solution is, well, then let's make prison even worse.
Right?
Don't make society better. Let's make prison worse. And, even though we know that, at least as far as violent crime goes, if people have good standard of living, they have food, they have adequate shelter, and adequate medical care, they're far less likely to commit acts of violence. And also, if they have mental health care, they're far less likely to commit acts of violence. So, but and that's very often cheaper than warehousing people with this full idea that well, if we abuse them enough. And that's the other thing too. I said about that Calvinistic idea. How many people that really don't give a halfpenny jizz how badly criminals get, convicts get treated? And one, it doesn't help the convict, doesn't make them a better person, more than likely. Two, we know on occasion we convict the wrong person. So that means if we have this idea that anyone convicted is there for fair game for abuse by their jailers, then that means we know for a fact that people who didn't do something wrong are going to be treated that way. And how can you, and so then the whole argument of, well, they did something wrong. Well, we don't know. The system convicted them, but that doesn't mean that they were guilty, that they actually committed the offense. So
Strickland in Missouri.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe, if you ever cheat on your taxes, we're going to send you to a place where you have to eat food that you didn't cook. Every day, somebody else will have cooked your food.
Well, and that actually brings up a good point about how the double standard, like certain crime, white collar crime, you have it a much more humane experience, and but if you're in fact an experience that for people on the bottom end of the social economic rung would probably be preferable to what they live on a daily basis. So we're willing to pay for that for somebody who's got money, but not for somebody who's got a shit life.
Right.
Joe.
Well, I just want to reference what Tommy said there that I just put up on the screen about we can house these criminals, but we can't house the homeless. I mean, and this is a point which I've been making for literally my whole adult life, is that, if someone is destitute, they're more likely to commit crimes, right? Desperate people commit desperate actions. That's just human nature, and it almost doesn't matter what culture you're from. And homeless people, are necessarily desperate. And I'm not saying they're all criminals necessarily, but the bottom is they're more likely to be in a position where they might have to commit crimes in order to survive. If you have to steal a sandwich or starve, you're going to steal a sandwich, right? You just are. And where I'm going
years ago,
it would just be so much cheaper, huh?
There was a guy a couple years ago. He walked into a bank with a note saying that he was robbing the bank. He wasn't robbing the bank. He did that in order to get arrested. He wanted to go to jail so he would have, 3 hots and a cot.
Right. So this is the thing. The homeless situation is one of my pet peeves in life, and I never can understand how we allow a society to develop where there's like more than 500,000 homeless people, and half of those people live in California.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be homeless, there's a couple of places that are ideal. Southern California is one. Hawaii is another. If I was going to be homeless, I'd choose Hawaii.
Yeah,
I certainly be in Alaska. You know what I mean?
Well, the other thing too, we talk about stigma. Not only is it rough being, might you have to commit crimes in order to survive if you're homeless, but then you have places like Austin that are basically criminalizing being homeless. So what they're doing is they're like the people that live under the bridges because it's the safest place to live. They're basically, rounding them up and just rousting them on. They made it illegal to camp within the city limits, and all this kind of stuff. And then the places where they put all the spikes on the places that people can normally sit on the railings. And then the other thing is making sure that benches don't have a big broad bench, that they all have dividers so you can't lay down on them. So think about that. They spent extra money replacing all the fucking benches to make it hard for the homeless. I'm like, why didn't you just pay for shelter for fucking homeless people?
Right. And the answer is because they don't want people to have a free handout, because that's not where the political conversation has been for the past 40 or 50 years. You know what I mean? It's there's pretty much my whole adult life, there hasn't really been an emphasis on helping poor people like there was when I was a small child back in the 60s and early 70s. Helping the poor used to be a thing. Nowadays, they all talk about helping the middle class, saving the middle class, blah, blah, blah. We got to fix the middle class and save the middle class. And I'm not saying the middle class isn't without value, but what I'm saying is they don't even appeal to the moral obligation to help the poor, to alleviate poverty and stuff like that. It's not really part of the conversation anymore.
In a nation where so many try to claim that we're a Christian nation.
Right.
If Jesus existed and could come back, I think he'd be pretty appalled that. Well, see, Austin is progressive relative to Texas, but that's like saying getting punched in the face is getting better than getting a bowling ball to the balls.
An interesting comparison.
You like my metaphor?
Yeah.
San Antonio is probably the only really progressive city in Texas.
Have you spent much time in Texas, Joe?
Quite a bit, mostly in Dallas. Although I was in, when I went on vacation at the end of June, I was in Amarillo for like 5-6 days, and I was in Dallas for like a day and a half, and I was in Austin for a day. Again, so that was my 3rd or 4th time at Austin. I've been to Dallas like 20 times, and it was my first time in Amarillo.
Yeah, I've never been that part of the country, and I want to do not right away, not until after pandemic time. But I would love to really do like an American road trip and video the whole damn thing, and just do like one great big circle with a cross in it. You know what I mean? So you do like the outside of it and then go across the middle.
Well, next month, COVID restrictions, permitting, I'll be driving out to Chicago, I'm taking the long way. So again, they're starting Monday. There's Canada is supposedly allowing Americans in for non-essential travel. So assuming that that's still in force, in mid September, um, I'm going to be driving up to Toronto. I'm going to see Christine and Andrew and Nellie. Then drive across to Detroit. See Sue. From the stream. Um, then Lansing to see another friend. Then Watervliet. And then on to Chicago. I'll be in Chicago for like 4 or 5 days. Then on the way back, I hit Toledo. Do you remember uh, Nosy Housefrau?
Who?
Nosy Housefrau.
No, never.
She used to make videos. She still does, but she has use a different name now. And then so Toledo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and then Hagerstown. So when I hit Hagerstown, I'll also going to see Steve Shives. And
I'm super jealous. That sounds like a great trip, man.
yeah, so so not counting any incidental miles, it came at according to MapQuest, it's like or Google Maps, it's like 2,001 miles, and it'll probably end up being closer to 2,400 by the time I'm done, and that's going to take me just over 2 weeks. And out in Chicago, there's Women of Color Beyond Belief convention, which I'm going to. I also have relatives out in Chicago, and I also have friends out there too. So,
Paul, a few years back, Facts versus Religion did basically the same trip you're talking about. Paul?
Sorry, hang on.
It's like, are you okay?
Please repeat that.
Facts versus Religion. Do you remember her?
Oh yeah, I remember her.
Yeah, she did that same basic trip. She drove around the outside and then across the middle.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yep. I certainly remember her. There was a time when everything was like this. And that's when I knew her. And then it all went like this. And I didn't know her anymore. Yeah.
I tried to do a trip like that, and it got cut short. And there's still a few things in this country that I still want to see. I want to see the new Freedom Tower in New York. I was in Kuwait when the September 11th attacks happened, and I served in the military, and I haven't seen all the things that were a part of that. I want to go through it. I want to ride. I heard that the elevator in the middle has like a little show as you go up the different stories. I want to see that.
Coming out, man. I live very close, and I can show you around, and I'm sure we probably get Raven in there as well, and Peach if she wants to.
The 9/11 memorial is nice.
My previous trip was at the fall of 2019. I went to Lancaster, PA. Saw Chris Mowdy. Went to Philadelphia. Saw my sisters, and also hung out with Honest Discussioner. Then I went to the DC area. I saw Rational Warrior and a college friend, and
You met Rational Warrior. I'm super jealous.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. I've hung out with him a few times. But yeah, this time I actually got to go to his house and hang out. So we had a good day. You'd love him. You'd love him. And then I saw a college friend, and I also my elder stepson. And then the next was as far as visiting people, it was South Carolina. I have a friend like from when I was a kid. And then I went to Atlanta, saw a cousin and a longtime friend. Then to Alabama to see family. Then I went to Mississippi to see Zelda. You remember Zelda? I know. Raven knows Zelda, and so does Mike. Then I went to Houston to see a college friend. Then I went down to Corpus Christi to see Odie. Then I went to Austin and saw Tracy and Jen. And then Aaron came down with his wife, and they hung out, and we went to
So
see.
you've met more people from YouTube than anybody else I've known, for sure.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's like I really admire that, Joe. I think it's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah.
Have you ever been recognized from your YouTube channel out in the world?
Only twice. One time was actually at Reason Rally #1. It was like the last day, and everyone we all a whole big group of us went for breakfast, and the conference was effectively over at that point, and this guy and his girlfriend, and they were like, "Hey, are you serious, mine?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like they're like, "Oh, I can't." And they were like subscribers of mine. Like, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I didn't expect I was going to meet. And then one other time, actually, it was like somebody that I knew. And I didn't know that they knew about my channel because I never told any of my friends, and he brought it up.
Well, I got recognized twice in London, and both times I was wearing my rainbow-colored hoodie.
Oh, cool!
And that's how I got recognized. I think because let's just face it, like especially in the UK, everybody in the wintertime has got like black or gray or dark blue or brown. No one's wearing any kind of color whatsoever. It's the most drab country in the world when it comes to the winter, right? I mean, people just shuffle around, and then I'm like, yeah, like that. So I know it kind of stands out. And I got recognized on the bus by Afroboy 10. He's like, "You got that funk, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then he told me his name, and I'm like, I actually knew who he was. It was really cool, even though I hadn't heard from him on YouTube for like years at the time. It was really cool. And then I was at one of the anti-Brexit marches where there was like 1 million people. And I decided rather than march in the march, like, because I got there at the beginning, I could have been at the front of the march and marched down into all the speeches and whatever. But I decided I was going to make a video, which I abandoned the project halfway through for reasons I'll elaborate on in a second. So I decided to stay at the front of the march and just stand there and film and watch the march go by. And then I was going to time lapse it. But there was 1 million people. And even if I time lapsed it by 8 times, it was going to be like a half-hour long video. And I'm like, well, no one's going to watch a half-hour long river of people flowing by. I still thought it was a cool idea, but I never would have imagined there was going to be that many people when I started making the video. But anyway, I was just standing there with my camera, and this pair of people walked by, and you got that funk, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. But of course, that's because I had that hoodie on at the time. So
that's so cool.
Kind of my trademark, I guess. I didn't realize it until I got recognized in it so many times.
That is extremely cool.
Yeah. But yeah, once you get recognized in the world, you're officially what they call YouTube famous, right? So. Yeah,
I'm trying to think. So I've met I met a lot of people. I think about like who were the. I mean, we never really had like. In our little corner of YouTube, there was really nobody that was really like internet, like YouTube big, because you figured like the biggest channels at the time had maybe 100,000 subscribers. It was like, I know now TJ's got millions or whatever, but the only people that I haven't met that were larger channels, I didn't meet Fact. I never met Fact versus Religion. I never met TJ, although I did interact with him on Facebook, and I think that's probably. Oh, I never met Beware the Lizard 42.
Besides people who should have known who I was because I was part of an event that was organized, like Skepticamp or American Atheists Convention, stuff like that, where like I was there doing stuff. The last 2 people that recognized me, because this pandemic has kind of killed the last 2 years. The last 2 that I can think of was I went to Shanny for Christ's arraignment.
Oh wow!
and her man Rev both recognized me.
Damn.
And so that was the very last time. But actually, while I was over at Russian Deadpool's arraignment, Alexander Kolpakov, he recognized me. So, without being able to say anything to me, I could tell by locking eyes. Yeah, he knew who I was. So
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, listen, guys, not being funny, but I want to end the show early tonight because my gal's just come back with curry. So I'll tell you what, I'm not going to end the show because you got ops, Joe.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm going to opt out and I'll opt back in if you're still on.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I probably won't stay on super late only because I ran my RPG late today. That's why I was late coming on. I didn't see till late that we were starting early, and I couldn't have joined earlier anyway. But yeah, I'll stay on for a while
Cool.
anyway.
Peace, y'all. I'll see you directly.
All right, take care, man. So what happened in the first hour?
Nothing.
Nothing.
there was a moment where we were deciding what we were going to talk about.
So, speaking of famous people, YouTubers, I did speak to Sarah Han recently.
Really?
He sent me a message and wanted to congratulate me on transition.
Very cool.
So he's out there still, and he's apparently paying attention to the world as it's going. So
interesting. It's funny, people like him who are obviously very active, and the fact that obviously he's still watching, but he's just being quiet.
Well, I mean, the whole community changed, and for a lot of people, he was on, I think, the wrong side of the argument. In the minds of a lot of people, he was actually even afraid that I would be like, not happy to hear from him. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, I miss you. But
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that. I think, I mean, I didn't know him as well as you, but I knew him a little bit, and he would recognize me, at least back then. I don't know about now. But yeah, I still, I still kind of miss those days, when there was actually somewhat of a community, and with all its faults, but there was still more cohesiveness. Actually, somebody who's, I know he's lurking. I don't know that he's really active, but Skeptical Heretic. Yeah, he created a new account, and I don't think he's making videos, but I know he was on. I think it was just before COVID. He was on Big Lundy had a live stream, and he was in that. And I saw it after the fact, and I said, "Oh, Skep, is that you?" And he wrote back, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, I've missed you." And he's like, "Aim better next time," which is totally Skep. But,
he's a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I mean, I remember. Yeah, I guess I met him during the New York meetup that Raven and I and Puka arranged.
There's in particular, there's a YouTuber named Kane Cordova who used to live in the next neighborhood down from me, but is by choice living out of a truck. Some people choose this life. He could be still in the next neighborhood over, but he's choosing to live out of the back of a truck, and he's making videos about the whole experience. And I've met up with him a couple times. We both own each other's art, a couple pieces.
Oh, cool.
In case one of us dies and becomes famous, the other one's going to get rich. That sort of deal. But yeah, if he was around during the the heyday of the atheists and all of the low hanging fruit, he would have been the biggest punching bag. I swear. He has all sorts of beliefs that I have conversations with him about. But wow, when I left the atheist community, I walked right into, wow, there's a lot of beliefs out there. You know.
Yeah.
I want to. I want Jonah. Sarahan could be mean. He could be. Yeah, he was mean sometimes, but I mean, he was never really mean. I never witnessed him being like maliciously mean. There was always a reason. Now, one of the things that he would do when he would argue, which I thought was brilliant because it really turned arguments around, was if you're like offended by something, you really need to ask yourself what your problem is, why you are offended, because many times it says more about you than it does about the thing that you're offended by. And that was brilliant, I thought.
Oh, sure. Although there's obviously plenty of things to be legitimately offended by.
Right, but come on, we both know lots and lots and lots of people are offended by shit, and it's like, really?
Like the war.
This is a big deal to you?
Like the war on Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite are people who are not comic book fans, who have gotten upset about whatever is in some Marvel movie or DC movie, or people who are like not truly Star Wars fans, that got upset about Star Wars, and you can tell from the stupid shit that they say that they're not really like heavy duty fans of that. So I'm like, well, why are you so angry? Why do you have the right to be proprietary about something that you're not really even part of? My favorite example is, people that got all upset about Captain Marvel being a woman. I'm like, well, the character's been a woman on and off, and predominantly a woman for most of the last 40 years. So it's not like it's new. It's not like this was some, so they try to make it, oh, this is woke political correctness. Like, no, The character's been a woman, not contiguously, but the character's been a woman on and off for the last 40 years.
Since when did Marvel get to be so, SJW and so, so woke? Dude, you never heard of the fucking X-Men?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they at least since the early 60s they were. Hell, the character Black Panther precedes the Black Panther Party. It just or like, look, I did not like the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, but the thing that did not bother me, like before the movies were even out, the first trailer, all they had, you saw the character Rey, you saw the character Finn. And people were having conniption fits, and there wasn't any content. It was just like, teaser trailer. It was just here's some action shots, and they were pissed off. And I'm like, what are you pissed? How can you be pissed about something that you don't even have the context to know what the hell's going on?
Hey, look, space used to be full of white people.
Well, yeah, but the funny thing is, I mean, we had Billy D. Williams, we had, as far as women characters, we didn't have a lot of women characters, but there were a few. So
Billy D. was an honorary white person.
Yeah. I don't know. You did those Colt 45 commercials. White people don't drink Colt 45. Come on. But yeah, it was like, well, they were clearly mad because the main character was a woman and a black person, and I'm like, that's not, I'm sorry, but that's not legitimate. That's, you're saying, because basically now anytime like any character is black or a woman or gay or anything like that, it's like, oh, it's political correctness. Like, no, people fucking exist.
I had a little bit of an issue with the black guy being a stormtrooper because of Star Wars canon that they're clones.
Well, yes and no, because here's the thing.
They changed canon.
Well, it didn't actually. Because by the time the A New Hope happens, they're not all clones.
Yeah, they were.
No.
Which is why Leia said, "You're pretty short for a stormtrooper."
Well, right, but the thing is, if you look at if you look at what's going on, well, if you remember, there's the one who hits his head going into the in the thing, he was taller than the others, so clearly he could not be a clone. You know,
What
and
was
there
the
was
General Order?
General Order 66.
66. I thought so.
Right, but you think there's 30 years between General Order 66 and the New Hope, or no, not 30, but 20 years. Let's took 20 years. Um, so so they were still predominantly clones, but they're not all clones at that point. So and then you figure by the time the Force Awakens happens, you're another close to 10 years on. But because remember, once the Republic was gone, they didn't really need clones. They weren't going to be battling anybody. It was more of like control at that point. And then it was just a matter of getting. And you could see it too in the comic. At least some of the comics are considered canon, and they're not all clones in that. But yeah, I mean, I actually, funny thing is, those two characters were the only thing about the Force Awakens I actually liked. I thought the rest of the movie was pretty well trash. But I wasn't like, oh no, a woman, what's going to happen? Like my balls are, bigger than that.
Jonah, do you want to hear about one that's really stupid that Americans get upset about? Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman isn't patriotic enough. That's an actual complaint from the right wing.
When she's not from here.
Yeah. She's not patriotic enough, and her uniform is red, blue, and gold, not red, white, and blue.
It's like, but that's what she always was.
Yeah, and it's like, and she's not even American, so.
Nope.
But in the Justice League cartoons in the 80s, she didn't have like the stars on her butt.
Yeah. But Jonah brought up the Idris Elba as 007. I mean, I've actually had people say, "Oh, well, traditionally," I'm like, he's a spy. He could literally be anybody. He could be, it could be a woman instead. It's a spy, and it's not like I've heard complaints about some movies that are like from supposed to be medieval or restoration period where they have black characters, because there were some black people in Europe, but not a ton, but. The thing is that, like, look, there are black people in Britain now and have been for a long time. So the idea that of having a black 007 is not like, it's not like a unicorn trying to find a black person in Britain.
Jonah, I don't think so. I don't think there's a person on the planet that would be confused about the American flag.
To be fair, before Idris Elba was considered, before Sean Connery was considered, people complained that Sean Connery, being Scottish, wasn't the right fit.
Right.
He was the wrong kind of white.
Yeah. Which is even more racist to a degree, in a certain way. You're not the right kind of white.
And really, I think that he defined the character.
Yeah.
He ended up being the one that everyone thinks about when they think about James Bond.
Although for me, growing up, Roger Moore was James Bond.
Okay.
Yeah. But certainly, I know what you mean. Like
Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
Jonah, there might be screenshots. You can get screenshots of people saying that they thought it was the American flag. That doesn't mean they really thought that, though. I mean, you know that, right? People put stuff on the internet that, things that aren't true.
What?
Yeah. There's some stuff on the internet that's not true.
No.
I am biologically not female. There you go. Oh, people saying things that aren't true on the internet. That's crazy talk. That doesn't mean anything, though, man. That doesn't mean anything. Yeah. And the thing is, okay, even if there are a tiny number of like deluded people, like they're definitely not prevalent
in the internet. There's not a lot of people who think that. I mean, what was really funny to me, and this is something, Raven, that you brought up about Captain America. I mean, technically speaking, his outfit it's more like the Puerto Rican flag instead of the American flag.
Yeah.
But I remember I was at a truck stop in Pennsylvania, coming off the road. I was traveling, and I stopped to get some liquid, and they were selling, for different things you could hang in your vehicle, and they had a Puerto Rican flag, and people were buying them thinking they were American flags, and I was laughing my ass off because I was like, no, that's not another version of the American flag. That's the Puerto Rican flag.
Interesting about that is that the only reason why people are making that mistake is that the Puerto Rican flag that they're buying on whatever it is they're buying is wrong, because the blue on the Puerto Rican flag is actually different than the blue on the American flag. It's a much lighter color. The actual official color is different. It's just that over the years, with mass producing stuff,
it is lighter. It is lighter.
It's lighter. It's noticeably lighter too. I mean, it's not like if you see it, you know immediately that's not the same color blue that's on the American flag.
Right.
It's closer to the blue on the trans flag. It's that much of a difference. It's much noticeably lighter.
Yeah, it's a medium
because
blue
of
versus
mass,
dark blue.
Yeah, because of mass marketing and mass manufacturing and stuff. It's just easier that the blue on a lot of stuff that you buy for the Puerto Rican flag ends up being darker like the American flag. And a lot of people don't know the difference. But the reality is it's not the same color. Anyway.
Well, what's really funny is there are people I've seen that I knew for a fact were not Cuban that were flying the Cuban flag,
thinking it was the Puerto Rican flag.
Yeah, because the difference is the field is red versus and blue stripes versus the other way around. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's the Cuban flag. You're not Cuban.
Yeah.
Well, especially I just get in general with right wingers, and I hear stuff like the red, white, and blue. I'm like, buddy, do you know how many flags are red, white, and blue?
France,
exactly.
The UK,
right?
Australia,
yeah. Norway.
There you go.
Czechia, Luxembourg, Croatia. Lots of flags. A huge number of flags are red, white, and blue.
So yeah, it kind of becomes, the red, white, and blue. Yeah, which one?
Yeah.
It's right up there with I believe in God. Which one?
Yeah.
Raven, I was going to talk to you about something that I feel like you might be able to feel me on this point, right? So I got the GI Bill as a veteran, right?
I did not.
I used every damn penny, right? For the first 12 months of my enlistment, I had to pay $100 every month. For 4 years, when I was going through college, I got $1,300 a month back.
Wow.
That's a pretty good return on your money, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why I was able to get that much money back was because there's so many people who don't use the benefit. And after 10 years, you lose it, right?
Okay.
So this week I heard that Target is now going to start paying 100% tuition for people.
Wow.
It's in the news. And I imagine it's going to have strings like must have worked for Target for so many years, just like the Army has. You know, you can't just like pay for everyone's education and have them leave. It's probably they're going to have to work, you know, a little bit before they go to school, and then while they're at school, still work at Target. But they're going to pay 100% tuition. And I was thinking to myself, a promise like that is going to get people to look at a job at Target, right? But just like the GI Bill, how many people will join Target thinking that they're going to use that college money and then they never end up using the benefit?
Right.
It's kind of like if you're shopping for a cell phone and they want to give you a mail-in voucher that says you get a $200 rebate.
Right. Mail-in rebate. I never send those in. Mail-in rebates.
They're betting that you won't mail it in.
Right. And the odds are in their favor that you won't.
So this week, Target gets this great PR thing. You know, we're going to pay for people's tuition, but really, they're tricking people into thinking that they're going to go to school. But you know, life happens and people make other decisions.
Right. But they're not tricking anybody because it's not their fault that life happens.
No, but they understand that life happens more often than not.
Yes.
Just like the Army says to people, yeah, you can have 4 years of college paid. Just, you know, enlist for 4 years of the military. And you know,
I didn't qualify. I didn't qualify for the GI Bill. I got nothing.
Why didn't you qualify?
I wasn't in long enough.
What were the requirements then?
I'm sorry?
What were the length requirements then?
I don't remember. I know I didn't meet it, though, because I signed up for the shortest amount of time that I could do active duty because I really did not know if that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to tie myself to something that I was going to be, you know, miserable with.
Yeah.
And I was right. It wasn't for me. But I mean, I did make a deal, you know. I signed my name and I did everything I could to make sure I finished my time. But as soon as they said you can go, I went.
Understood. I was the same. I signed up for a certain amount of time and never re-enlisted. But when I got out, the rule was still 4 years active duty to be able to qualify for the GA Bill, and I served 6. And during the Gulf War and in the Afghan War, they lowered it to 18 months active duty and 18 months in the National Guard would also qualify you.
See, I would have had it. I did 3 years, 3 years active. So, I mean, and even that is active. Bullshit. It wasn't active. It was National Guard. So it was a weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer for 3 years. Well, actually, for 2.5 years, because then there was basic training and there was, you know, AIT. So
they have other college funds within the military for jobs that don't translate to jobs on the outside now. So yes. Like infantrymen get like twice as much benefit if they, you know, look for it. And still, nobody's using it. That's why they can afford to make these outlandish promises. If you actually use it, that's great. Right. But people get out of the service and they look for a job and they just don't go back to school. If you ever have a break from going to school, the chances that you go back are slim.
Right. When I got out, I could have gotten a permit for a gun, like easy. Like I wouldn't have had to do much at all. And I didn't do it. I kind of wish that I had. I could have gotten a pass for all of the state parks and all that kind of stuff. All the New Jersey state parks, I've like, you know, free entry and everything else. I did not take advantage of that. Now I wish I had. There was, the hell else was there? I don't know. There was other stuff. I took advantage of nothing. I just kind of, it's stupid.
I have the national parks pass, but I only get a discount in Colorado for the state pass, but it's a yearly thing you have to get. A little sticker on your car. But the national parks, I have a card in my wallet.
Hey guys, yeah, I'm flagging a little.
Are you really already? I don't know how long I'm going to be on because at some point Peach and I are gonna we're gonna shut the lights down and put the TV on, and we're gonna watch Suicide Squad and get pizza.
Oh, that's right. It's out today.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be actually, we might be doing it right there on the floor because I have the TV there.
Oh,
That's
cool.
a nice TV. That's a nicer TV than what we have in our living room.
Mm.
So, and nobody ever watches this. But I mean, it's a high def TV, which might not be good for Suicide Squad. I don't want to, it'll be too clear. You know what I mean?
See,
You can see the strings.
yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to it because I mean, I like Idris Elba, and I like Flula Borg. Have you guys ever seen Flula? You might have seen because I usually
Yeah.
post his videos.
Way back in the day, I remember all of the. Flu is a weirdo.
Well, my some of my favorites were he did because of course I mean he actually speaks decent English, but he plays this it's a character he's doing, but he is actually from Germany though, but one of them was a scapegoat because he got confused by he got it confused by scapegoat. He thought it was a scapegoat, and he's like, somebody said, "Oh, you're the scapegoat." He's like, "The scapegoat." He goes, "That sounds cool." It's like, you know.
Well, I mean, we might be watching it tonight right there on the floor with pizza. So, like, it'll be like date night kind of a thing. It was either that or we'll go to the drive-in.
Mm,
And, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the drive-in, but because of COVID, we haven't done shit for anything in so long that, the idea of going to the drive-in was actually pretty cool. It's so hard with the boys, though.
yeah.
So, it's just like,
Yeah.
you spend money to get in there, spend money for food there, and then end up miserable through most of the movie. It's no.
We're probably gonna go. We may go tomorrow. We're gonna probably go see it at the one of the dine-in theaters. Because the nice about the dine-in is like you're actually separated. Like there's kind of groups of 2 or 4 seats, so you're kind of spread out. So we can go and not be all that close to other people. And we're both vaccinated. Um, But oh no, one other thing that's good. So I'm sure I told you last weekend about Molly. Um, so the day after Molly died, one of Suzanne's friends and her former coworker called her up, and she's moving from Morristown down to Princeton, and having a house built. And so she told Suzanne, "Oh, well, I'm going to be getting a dog, and oh, by the way." There's one dog left out of that litter, and it's the same mix. It's another Bichon Shih Tzu mix. So Suzanne, I don't believe in fate, but she does. So she said, "Well, that's too coincidental for me. So we're getting one of them, and we're naming her Lily." And Lily is one of my sisters was named Lily. She died in 2014 from cancer. So it was after her, and and at least in the short term, because her friend's house won't be ready until late September, we'll be taking her dog as well for 6 weeks or so. So we'll have 3 dogs in the house again. And there was this. I don't have one on my computer, but I was given some pictures of Lily kissing my wife. She's very kissy and very sweet, and she's tiny.
Cute, very cute. I
What,
saw you post about it the other day.
what's funny is that the dog's mother looks a lot like Blitzen. You know, um, so that was kind of wild.
Raven, does your drive-through have a playground right underneath the screen? Are your kids allowed to play on it, or are they not good for other kids?
Well, I mean, one is too small, and can't watch the movie with Damon on the swings and stuff because he wanders. So
Hopefully that changes as the years pass, you can let them use the playground while you're watching. Because like there's the community watching kids. Like all the cars in the front row, they're
Yeah.
supposed to be the parents.
It's we couldn't trust him to not wander off.
One day.
Hopefully.
Who's got a kazoo?
Oh, no, that I was looking at my YouTube feed, and there was a video of and it's mostly baby goats, and
Why does your YouTube feed have baby goats, Joe? What do we not know?
there's a channel called Waggle TV, and it has various animals. Oh, hey, Paul's back. Has animals of various types, mostly dogs, but other animals being cute, and so that's why. So there, haha. Oh, yeah, Paul, you weren't here. So so I told you last weekend about Molly. But a friend of Suzanne's is moving to Princeton and getting a dog, and there was another dog left in that litter, so we're getting that dog.
Oh, wow. Good for you, Joe. Super happy about that.
Yeah, so her name is Lily, or will be Lily once we get her. And
How old is that type of dog?
she's right now she's like 8 weeks old.
Okay.
So we're getting her next Friday, and it's well, they say she's a Bichon and Shih Tzu mix, the same as Molly was. Although she, her hair, she's got fairly curly hair, so she doesn't really. I'm not really seeing the Shih Tzu in her at all. But she's adorable, and Suzanne picked her up, and she immediately started getting kisses. So yeah, she's a very loving little pup.
I travel too much to have a dog, and it really kills me because I would love a dog, I really do. But it would be irresponsible for me to get a dog considering how much traveling I do. So,
yeah, it's a shame too because I think you would be a great pet parent.
Well, I am the adopted parent of several pets. My friend Miranda in Cornwall has a dog that we joke that it's actually my dog, and she looks after it. And it's the same with Slayer, the dog that my old roommate used to have, still has in Kingston outside London. So, I mean, and then his parents, who were good friends of mine in Cornwall, they just got a brand new puppy. It's like, I think by now he must be 14 weeks old. It's the breed is called Leonberger. You know what it looks like?
Yeah.
They're bigger than people. I mean, they're gigantic. The dog's 14 weeks old, and he's already as big as their Rottweiler. And she's 3 or 4, So it scares me to think how big that dog's going to be when he's finally grown up. It'd be like a 250-pounder, I think. It's like a really big dog.
Yeah, they're like one of the biggest of the Mastiff class.
And super pretty as well. Yeah.
I'm looking at pictures of them right there. So it's funny with dogs, how you have that huge spread. You have like teacup size that are like will fit in your palm. They're like 1 or 2 pounds, and then you've got all the way up to Leonberger that's like just shy of the size of a wolf, or bigger than probably some wolves.
They're bigger than some wolves, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. People used to use back at about 10 or 12 years ago on YouTube when there was this the beginnings of what is now this fascist movement. In terms of what was happening on YouTube at the time, there was this race realism movement. You remember that around about 2010, 2011? And these idiots used to use the differences of dog breeds as some sort of comparison between the differences between the races of human beings and whatever. And it's just like, I know I don't have to go down that road, but I mean, basically that's one of the stupidest arguments I could ever hear. You know what I mean? I mean, dogs have been selectively bred for centuries to get to be different breeds. You know what I mean? It is nowhere near comparable.
When years ago, when Blitzen was new, we went to there's a pet expo at Raritan Center near here, and they actually had a pair of yeah, they had a pair of full-blooded wolves, and I don't know what variety, but they were enormous. And so we're walking around, and we got Blitzen on a leash, and she's having a good old time seeing all the other dogs. And then we come around the corner, and I guess someone had taken one of the wolves out so it could go walk it outside and let it do what it had to do. And they were walking back, and the woman that was walking the wolf, she saw us, and I guess she didn't want to freak the wolf out, so she was like, move the dog. Like very even. She was like not making any facial expressions, just like let us know, like, you need to get out of the way. We picked her up, we got out of the way, because like I think she enormous. I've never seen an animal that close, that big. It was like a small bear.
Yeah, a lot of wild animals are bigger than you think. I mean, have you ever seen a moose in person?
Thankfully, no. my wife has, though.
They're bigger than horses. They're gigantic. I was not the first time I saw mooses in Canada, and I was not prepared for how big the damn thing was. They're incredible. They're kind of prehistoric looking as well. You know what I mean? They don't look like they look like they're from like some Plasticine or whatever age. I don't know. They don't look like they're from the modern world.
Oh, yeah.
I feel the same way about giraffes, and I feel the same way about rhinos. You know what I mean? They just look like they belong to a different era. And I'm not saying I want them to be extinct, not by a long way. I'm just saying they don't look like other things. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, it's the thing. I mean, yeah, it's an ungulate, but it's well, especially since moose, like, I mean, their neck is nowhere near as pronounced as other ungulates. Especially not as much as giraffe. But yeah, they're well, and like Suzanne went to college in Maine, and so they would, periodically they would get moose alerts, particularly during rutting season. And for anyone who doesn't know, you got a moose that weigh. I'm just checking to see the way. I don't remember how much they weigh. But okay, so they weigh between an adult male can weigh between 800 and 1,500 pounds, and they have bad eyesight, but a pronounced sense of smell. And when it's rutting season, they're horny and angry because they're basically trying to fight other males so they can get the females, and they will charge you. They'll charge especially vehicles. If the vehicle's coming toward them, they assume it's another moose charging them, and they charge. And if you've ever seen how much damage a deer, 125 to a 200-pound deer can do to a car, you don't want to see what a moose can do to a car.
Oh God, it scares me to think.
And they have been known, because they are such bad eyesight and they get so ornery, to try to hump cars.
Okay, this is a fucking gullibility test, and I'm not flunking, man. Bullshit. No way. This is a gullibility test. I'm not buying it. Show me the picture. I want evidence. I want to see a moose humping a Volkswagen.
I'm looking for one now.
Or if it's not a Volkswagen, what kind of car would a moose hump? I can't imagine.
Any damn car wants to.
I would guess a station wagon. If I were a moose, I'd think that was sexy.
Pickup truck.
Oh, yeah. Come to think of it, yeah, an American-made pickup truck to be.
No, Marcus, I've never humped a limo. Yeah, I'm more of a coupe kind of guy.
No, I can't imagine. But anyway, yeah, that beastly sex drive. Yeah.
I know the feeling.
That's why we're all here. Let's face it. I don't mean that's our purpose in life. I mean, that's how we got here in the first place. Just to be clear. Just to be clear.
In the broader sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was told in comment form on one of my videos that I'm a narcissist. Because I have a GoFundMe for transition stuff. And that makes me a narcissist. And this person said that I should be asking people to help with things like electrolysis. That I'm just too lazy to shave. I'm not kidding. They really said this.
Oh, I believe someone said it because there's a lot of fucking stupid assholes out there. I'd tell them to take a huge dose of shut the fuck up and get out of here.
I want to see his license to practice, psychoanalysis of people over the internet.
Yeah.
But really, I think if we're just talking about narcissism, the actual diagnosis, you have to make a different scale for YouTubers. You can't just because somebody sets up a GoFundMe that is the thing. Like, just by virtue of being a YouTuber, you could be the nicest YouTuber in the world. You want people to look at you. You want their attention. You want more up thumbs. That's the whole point of it. So we have to have a different scale for how we judge, like, who is a narcissist and not. And maybe just people who make GoFundMes are just the people who have enough confidence to, actually put their thing out there and say, you know what, I know that, squeaky wheel gets the grease. You have to voice what you need in order to get what you need.
He said, he said that it's unrealistic, that nobody should give a shit, nobody should donate to it because we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic, and who do I think I am, asking people to donate towards my transition.
There's a difference between asking people to donate and telling them they should. There's a complete difference.
Well, also, anytime someone says, like, who do you think you are that you do whatever, I'm like, just like you who are telling me what I should and shouldn't do. So if Simon says go fuck yourself, it's hilarious. like I remember years ago, I had gotten into an argument with this person that I didn't know them personally, but they were in a local, atheist group and that I had joined. So basically, we had a little bit of spat, nothing big. So I was like, I unfriended them and moved on, and then the woman's husband comes to my wall to, like, start going after me. And I'm thinking, well, first off, what an unfeminist thing to do. Your wife. I said something. Your wife didn't appreciate it. I removed the comment, and I moved on. I blocked her. So I'm not going to be saying anything she doesn't like anymore. I removed the offending comment. I didn't argue with her about it. Why are you here being an asshole? Because that's not what I did on your wife's wall. And but his thing was like, had to do with priorities. Like, who are you to decide what's important and what's not? I'm like, I got the same right to do that as you do, jackass.
Right. I just wanted to make a point about narcissism, because Raven said, or was just basically accused of narcissism. And I have joked for my whole life that I have benign narcissism, and I don't really have benign narcissism because I don't think there is such a thing. I mean, narcissism is pretty much malignant, right? Having said that, I think there's a definite distinction to be drawn between being an attention seeker, which I definitely am, and being a narcissist. There's nothing wrong with enjoying attention or even seeking attention. Narcissism is when you think there's something so special about you that you're better than other people. That's like the fundamental difference. That doesn't necessarily make you an attention seeker. Even you might just think that you deserve the attention whether you're getting it or not, like that Elliot guy a few years ago, Elliot Rogers.
Right.
What if I am better than everybody else?
What's interesting, I mean, it probably just isn't the right word, but whatever, is that trans women are accused of being narcissists all the time just because they're trans. So, I mean, him basically saying, calling me a narcissist is pretty transphobic.
Right.
In my opinion. And also saying, too lazy to shave. Telling trans women to shave is kind of transphobic also.
Well, and what's especially fucked up about that, I'm like, okay, I don't like shaving. What if I went through electrolysis? I mean, I have the right. If I got the money and the time, then who cares? I mean,
He said the fact that I raised money to pay for my hair extensions was pretty fucked up in his opinion, because he said it's sexist of me to do that. Yeah. He says it's sexist because what I'm trying to do, in his opinion, is I am trying to portray what I believe women are supposed to look like.
no, you're trying to portray how you would like to look because you have a choice, a free choice of how you want to present yourself.
Right. Right. But he's like, it's sexist because you apparently believe that women should have long hair.
In other words, he thinks you're playing dress up.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
That's weird, man.
I mean,
That's like a disconnect that I can't really wrap my head around.
I don't know if you guys remember. iHas channel is the YouTuber.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is him. Yeah.
And by the way, Paul, I think my joke should have got a much bigger laugh than that.
You think what?
I think my joke should have got a much bigger laugh than that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because you said about what you have the definition of narcissism, and I'm like, well, what if I am better than everybody else? I think that's pretty funny.
I was thinking the same thing. I just didn't say it. You beat me to it.
Yeah.
No, well, I don't know.
Because narcissism is thinking you're better than everyone else.
Right.
I mean, if you're actually better than everyone else, you couldn't be a narcissist.
Well, that's right. It's not really a matter of opinion if it's objectively true. I've been telling people that for years, but no one believes it. I don't know.
Well,
that was the proper way to tell that joke.
Well, see, the funny thing is about narcissism is that narcissism is very often a cover for inferiority.
Right.
Or a sense of inferiority. So it's like that cover, like, well, if I can project that I'm this, hot shit, then people won't know that I think that I'm garbage. Well, actually, you mentioned Elliot Rodgers is a perfect example.
Yeah.
I didn't read all of what he wrote, but it's very clear he was demonstrating both narcissistic tendencies and inferiority complex.
Sure. And the most malignant case of hatred against women that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I couldn't finish it, Joe. I started reading it and I couldn't finish it. I'm like, I'm not going to poison my thoughts with this bullshit. You know what I mean? I could see how toxic it was. And the other thing about it was like, I mean, with the exception of Donald Trump, Elliot Rodgers is probably the most toxic narcissist I've ever been exposed to. Because not very many people get famous for narcissism in the first place, right? So that's one part of it. But I mean, Trump is a narcissist in every possible way that you can think of, whereas Elliot Rodgers was kind of more sort of specifically misogynist, narcissist kind of thing, Yeah.
It's funny. That's when So Jonas said, "Narcs say I'm right, everyone is wrong." I'm like, no, narcs means something completely different. And a narc is a completely different thing than that.
Unfortunately, in the context of this conversation, the worst narcissist I ever ran into was Josh Clark, Ash the Raven. And I, having had many conversations with him on I know I shouldn't diagnose, but I would say he fits the mold. But now she fits the mold because, yeah,
and that whole thing with Ash was really bizarre because when you're inventing a whole person so you can manipulate other people, that's like a whole new level.
It is. But the part that tipped me off was the grandiose idea of starting this business, the Fatal Error Network, and other things like that, and a pattern of this in different places. Like after that whole episode of Life, going on to Springfield, and then people finding out about things in the local theater community, where he also had grandiose claims of like, if you do this work for me, I'll pay you back later. There was always this like promise of future payment when everything blows up and we all become famous and we all become rich, right? And
He's wimpy.
manipulating people to do work for free is like this huge alarm bell that I have now. Every time I see it, I look for narcissism.
I kind of used to do that on YouTube, though. I got Rave, for example, to help me with a couple collaborations. Joe's in one of my collaborations as well. I'm sure you're in with Michael as well, to be honest.
But what you didn't promise riches in the end.
True. I was a thankless task from the very beginning. That's true.
I mean, Magnus, Sam, and Cherry. I mean, I asked people all kinds of people to work for free. Difference is, I never told them they were going to get anything.
Right.
Yeah. I think I did at least 3 of yours.
Of mine.
Oh no, well, I did at least 3 of Raven's. Hers. And I know I did a few of yours, Paul, because I know I did. Have you seen this man? And there was actually something I was going through files on my computer, and I actually found a clip from something that I know was one of your. And I forget which one it was, but it was one of your collaborations.
You participated in a collaboration where everybody was berating me. It's called YouTube Bro Scott That Funk.
Yep, that was that one. But there was also one where it was something positive, and where everyone was reading one line, and you spliced them all together to say something.
Fuck you videos.
Well, that too. But you did quite a number of collaborations. So maybe it's like 4 I did with you.
Yeah. No, that was my thing back in the day. I love that shit.
Yeah. Well, and see, that was a big part of the whole community building thing, right? You got people to work together, and that was fun. That was, to me, that was some of the best stuff that we ever did.
As far as like Ashes the Raven, I don't want to be that girl that bashes another trans woman. I don't know how real her transness is.
Ash?
When someone told me that Josh was transitioning, I looked for it, I searched it out, and there are photos and video clips and all kinds of stuff that are posted that show Josh, or whatever her name is now, looking very much like a cisgendered woman. Impeccably done and makeup and dressed and everything else. And then there'll be newer uploads or posts that it just looks like Josh. And I don't know if it's a matter of makeup and getting assistance with looking feminine, or if it's Photoshop.
Not to do too much prying into somebody's life, but one of the living arrangements that used to be had by this person was at a domestic violence shelter in the past. So knowing the ins and outs of that, it is a lot easier to get into that system if you are of a certain proclivity or or group than just being a man.
Raven, I want to ask your opinion about this, actually, because you just made me have a thought. So I've got these compilation videos that are still in the library on my channel, right? I've got at least two with you on, or more, but at least 2 for sure. I've got several. I've got the one video that has you, the roast got that funk video has you and Ashes the Raven on it, and other people as well. But I mean, you and Ashes the Raven, if you both transitioned, am I supposed to take those videos off now because you've transitioned? Is that like the proper etiquette? Like, I've also got videos where I used to make video responses to As Was Nicotine 2, now ContraPoints. And I've left those videos up for years because, I mean, quite frankly, those videos are so old, and the way the algorithms work anyways, you pretty much would have to search them out to find them.
I don't know about how anybody else feels about it, and so I'm not going to speak for anybody else.
Sure.
I don't know what the proper etiquette would be for it, but I have an internet persona, and that's DevShell 2.
Sure.
And DevShell 2 is who DevShell 2 is at any given moment. So,
yeah.
Back when it was the DevShell hat, that's still me. The Puerto Rico hat that I had when I first came to YouTube, that's still me. So, now with the locks, it's still me. So
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you think about Caitlyn Jenner, and I mean, we're not. I wouldn't think would want to go and scrub all the sports videos of the athletics of when pre-transition person was winning medals and so forth and so on. They did those things.
And also, I mean, I don't know if you saw my video about names. I posted a video a couple weeks ago. What's in a name, or by any other name, rather. And I went pretty much into detail there about people talking about Rob or bringing up Rob and things that Rob or DevShell have done in the past that it doesn't bother me at all. And I don't even consider my name Rob. I don't even consider that to be a dead name. Because I don't have negative feelings towards that person, towards that time in my life. That Rob protected me. He kept me safe in a cruel world. He kept me safe. So I mean, I don't have negative feelings like that.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
What happened?
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah, I think, and that was one thing I know I've wrestled with myself as far as how do you address, because speaking of Caitlyn Jenner, well, the person who won those medals wasn't named Caitlyn at the time. So is it wrong to say the name they had at the time when that's the name that they were known by and all the record books say?
Joe, I take it you haven't watched the most recent Ricky Gervais stand-up on Netflix.
I don't. I stopped watching Ricky Gervais. I really don't like him anymore. I used to love him.
Fair enough. He goes on at length about what you were just talking about and said some similar things. So I just figured you probably didn't see it, because it is simultaneously hilarious and outrageous, which is what he's going for.
Yeah.
But I think there are parts in that same video which are not about that subject, but about other subjects like racism, for example, which I think he crosses the freaking line. I think it is like, dude, whoa, what? Wow. Yeah.
Well, then this is the reason why I stopped liking him, not because he says controversial shit. I liked him before because he said, when he said controversial shit. The problem I have is now he's turned into a big fucking weenie where he wants to so he purposely does things to get a rise out of people, and then when he does and they complain, then he plays the victim. And so he talks about people being snowflakes and that kind of thing. I'm like, no, dude, you're the fucking snowflake. I mean,
I disagree. I think he doubles down. I think he's learned the whole double down thing, and he's just like, you know what? This is a funny joke. I'm just going to make it even worse. Take it even further.
No, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about in his stand-up, but I'm talking about if you look at his Twitter feed and the shit he says in the media.
Oh, right.
He complains. I make these jokes and blah 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 blah. Like, well, fucking, you made the joke. If you you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, right? So, and that's he does it for that purpose. He doubles down. He does it to get a rise out of people. So don't get mad when you do something to get a rise, and then sometimes you do. I mean, that was the whole fucking point. So, and that's the thing. I would have a lot more respect for what he does if he didn't whine about it. If he just went out and said, "Hey, I'm going to do my," because that's actually what Chappelle does. Chappelle just fucking does the joke, and he doesn't, he may address it later on, but he doesn't. I don't see him making the same kind of, like mamby-pamby kind of, whiny appeal about that, which is ironic because he's complaining about people whining. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up, and you want to tell the joke, tell the fucking joke, but you suffer the consequences if that's what you're gonna do. And it's the same thing with a lot of them. That's like, all these people who signed on to protect J.K. Rowling, And J.K. Rowling, I mean, it's so ridiculous. She's literally saying that if we accept trans people as the gender that they identify as, that somehow cis people don't have an identity anymore. Like we can't identify as we, feel comfortable. And that's the exact opposite of what fucking anybody
It's
would say.
crazy. Is like that whole conversation. I never followed it really close. And when I first started, like, checking it out, it was kind of like she said things that made sense to me. It was just like, we should not be giving children, we're not talking 16, 17, children, we should not be giving them hormones that change their bodies until they're a little bit older. That makes sense to me. There's a logic there. But like the more I looked at that whole conversation, that's not all she's saying. And it's just like, wow. The only people who are really, really aware of what she's saying are the ones that are following the conversation. Right. I think most people only hear well, that's reasonable stuff that she says.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, she's really fucking awful.
And again, no one's stopping her from saying it. No one's arrested her. She's not in jail. And yet they went out there and they had everyone sign this petition. And I might have mentioned this before, but really, I got really torqued when Michael Palin signed on, because I'm like, Michael, you were actually censored. When Life of Brian came out, you were actually censored. There were places that were, they banned your fucking movie. You should know the difference between these two fucking things. You were actually banned. No one's banning J.K. Rowling. They're saying, hey, I'm not going to support you anymore. I'm not going to give you any more of my money because I don't like what you have to say. That's reasonable. But it's like he can't, how does he not see the difference?
Yeah, I did. You make a great point about the Life of Brian, because I mean that was I don't remember how many years it was banned from cinemas in the UK, but it was banned for quite some time in the UK from being shown, and I just find that kind of hilariously ironic, because the movie's so full of British humor, and the British people didn't get to see it for such a long time.
Right. So that's why I'm like. And so they act like this is something new or something, worse than me. And like, no, this was we had, this basically religious tyranny where you couldn't put certain things on TV because it upset the sensibilities of religious people, but the majority basically. And there was a lot of, race things that you couldn't put on TV because it's up the majority. Like the kiss, the Kirk O'Hara kiss. They took that off the episode off the air in certain markets because people couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And so when you hear people that were around back then and were part of that, and how they think that telling J.K. Rowling off is somehow analogous, I'm like, you people are fucking stupid.
Did you ever hear the story of when Nichelle was considering leaving Star Trek and Martin Luther King talked her out of it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool, because he's like, no, you're on in the main room. You're equal with everybody on the screen there. Don't you dare leave. You're representing something,
Right.
If it wasn't for that, she probably would have left.
Right. Yeah. Well, he's like, yeah, we need you. We need your representation. And there's a lot of things, and that's something that like I didn't understand. I mean, I guess I kind of saw it from black perspective, but like when I was younger, I didn't understand why gay people came out. And what's funny about it is I never had like hostility toward gay people. I never felt like, oh, we should go beat them up or whatever like that. But I realize now that I did have some, homophobic attitudes that I was, indoctrinated with, because gay people coming out made me uncomfortable. Well, why did it make me uncomfortable? Because I was indoctrinated to think that being gay wasn't the hottest thing you should be. And so I had to learn, like, oh no, okay, that's actually why they need to come out, because people have these attitudes. And quite frankly, a gay person had to know, okay, is this person going to toss me over at some time in the future? I'd rather get it over with now, so, because I don't want them to quit me later on. And that's something I remember saying to Prof MTH at when we were at the New York meetup, that I realized that, like, when people say that the struggle was the same for black people and gay people, I said, well, it's similar in we need the same results, but it's not, because I've never had to worry that somebody who knew me for some length of time was going to find out I was black and then kick me out of their life. They might have avoided me in the first place. So I have primary, but no one was ever going to go, oh my God, you're what? Oh no, we can't be friends.
You're no, Doug, you're Mexican. No? All this time.
Yeah. If you didn't know, Paul, Coughlin's been for years. He's been having this running joke about me being Mexican. So
yeah, I did know that. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty funny. No, I mean, like you say about we want the same results. Basically equality. If you want to sum it up in its irreducible form, but it's interesting to me because it's the same people. I think that if you had a Venn diagram of people who are sort of racist bigots and people who are homophobic bigots, I think there's a pretty big overlap.
It's nearly a unity set.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and there's like historical things, situational things that are very similar. I remember way back early on in YouTube getting into a back and forth about gay rights with a black guy who was just like, no, it's not anywhere near the same thing. It's like we were, lynched. Well, so are gays. I mean, they made a game out of it, and it was called Drag-A-Fag, and they would drag them up the road behind a car.
Right.
Wait. You guys call it Drag-A-Fag?
Why would you guys call it?
Smear the queer.
So I mean, there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of historical similarities.
Right.
And it's the same end result basically. And it never made sense to me that there was such an issue between the Black Civil Rights Movement and the gay rights movement. It's the same.
In part because there's still unfortunately a fair bit of homophobia in the black community. Yeah. It really comes down to it.
I would also offer that people have this sort of subconscious thing. It's like there's only so much they can care about, and if you're taking away from my issue by focusing on your issue, and I think there's like a compassion deficit. You know what I mean?
Okay, so it's funny. Full circle. Talking about IHA's channel on calling me a narcissist and stuff. And one of his last comments that he left a link for a GoFundMe for somebody who has stage 4 cancer. So, okay, everyone watching right now, as soon as you're done here, go to my video, not my last video because that's a re-upload of an old video, but go to my video titled by any other name and go into the comments and go searching through the comments for comments by a YouTube user named Poggy. And his last comment, there'll be a link. Go to that link and donate money to this person who needs help paying for treatment. He has stage 4 cancer. It is a worthy thing. If you can do it, do it. Do
you have the link and you put it in the private chat and I'll throw it up?
I don't. I would have to go searching for it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the video right now. I'm trying to go through the comments.
So I mean, he said, basically it was like a fuck you for wanting help with transition when there's people who need real help. And here's an example. And I replied and I said, I support this 100%. This is great.
What if we all went and donated a little bit? They just left the comment, I'm here because Poggy's a homophobe.
So you can hide your gay, but not your black. Yeah, that's an awful argument, though. That's a terrible argument. Because
if there was a bottle of a carbonated beverage with high fructose corn syrup in it, what kind of beverage is that to you?
Coke. I don't know.
Pop, soda, Coke.
Coke.
Okay.
Soda.
No, I mean I intentionally drink Coke, but I call it soda.
So when you would ring someone's doorbell, and then run and hide in the bushes so that when they answered their door and they found nobody there? What did you call that?
I can't
Doorbell
say.
ditch.
I can't say.
Okay. So you can't say because it was the racist version, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
I lived in California where we weren't
N-word.
racist, we were homophobic.
N-word knocking. That's what they called it when I was a kid. They called it
Really?
N-word knocking. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Where I grew up, it was called Twinkie dinging.
Let's go. What?
Twinkie dingy.
We weren't racist. We were homophobes.
Twinkie dinging. Wow.
Yeah. See, I don't remember what it was called down in this part of New Jersey, but I just know it was neither of those things. I never heard of those.
Ding dong ditch.
Ding dong ditch. I've heard that a lot. But yeah, now when I was a teenager around here, they called it the N-word knocking. Yeah.
Okay, listen. I have to go in a few minutes because it's almost the girls' bedtime. So, do you guys want to stay on, or shall we wrap up?
I'm pretty tired. I mean, the problem I this morning, I woke up at just before 5 o'clock and couldn't get back to sleep. So I'm
Okay.
I'm running.
Well, listen. Before we wrap up, let's have a little lighthearted fun here. What's your everybody's favorite video that Raven's ever done? I can start right.
I know the answer for Joe. I already know the answer.
Okay, I know my answer for sure because there's two that stick out in my mind. One was when you did a video about white privilege that I thought was literally one of the best videos on that subject I ever saw. But the other one was, do you remember when I think he was a Heisman Trophy winner and he was gay and he was the first openly gay football player to be accepted. And then there was some black veteran in his car talking about how he doesn't want his son to see that. And you made a video response to that guy that was positively blistering. And it was so good. So I think that one probably tops the white privilege one, but just by a little bit. What about you, Joe?
I'm drawing a blank on the title now, but Raven did a video making fun of, this is right around the time that Thunderfoot started asking for money. And I also made a video too, because basically it wasn't that Thunderfoot was asking for money. It was the insipid, insidious way that he did it. And so basically Raven was out there acting homeless and like huddling and doing all this. And it was really, really funny.
Buddy, can you spare a dime?
Yes. Thank you. I couldn't remember the title. That was, to me, it was comedy gold.
Yeah, right.
I'm proud of you,
Mike?
My favorite thing of Dev Show ever broadcast was actually on Blog TV. I saw an after show that was pretty impressive. I don't know how intoxicated the broadcaster was. What is
I think I remember. I have something in mind. I don't know if it's the same thing you're thinking of, but if you're thinking of the same thing, yeah, that was impressive.
Well, Blog TV was so much fun, man. Back in those days, it's not that much different to this, but it was somehow in a way that I can't quite put my finger on. And maybe it's just because it was more of a community back then. I mean, when I would have a Blog TV show, I'd have anywhere between 100 and 300 people come through the room over the course of, say, 4 hours, right? And so that's like having a whole party, and it doesn't make a mess. It's great. I loved it. But There was two that really stick out in my mind that I did. One was when it was Beware the Lizard 42's birthday, and she was going to do a birthday Blog TV. So I dressed up as her and did a Blog TV for an hour before she did hers, and then we both came on. She came on my show, and then I came on her show, and we were dressed almost exactly the same, and it wasn't even a plan, and that was pretty fun. But the best one I ever did for sure was I did a whole 5-hour long Blog TV as my character Jody Wiener. And that was probably the most creative thing I ever did on YouTube because I got to play a character for 5 hours and it was great fun.
So I want to correct something because I don't want to take credit for something that wasn't me. Proctor Hawk, the Doctors Without Borders charity, the 24-hour charity, that was DPR Jones. May he rest in peace. For those of you who did not know, DPR Jones passed away. But the Doctors Without Borders charity event, that was DPR Jones. The auction with the painting of my penis. I actually have that painting. It was recently sent to me. But yeah, that was on Manus Maimon charity, and that was raising money for HIV charities.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
Anyway,
wanna,
so that was that.
first for a second, I want to address this comment because it annoys me. So you apparently have hearing trouble because we both said the problem with Thunderfoot raising money wasn't that he was raising money. It was the manipulative and deceptive and dishonest way that he was going about it. So if you can't distinguish between the method and the action and the purpose, that's on you. You maybe open your fucking ears sometime.
So, but also, I mean, and it was Thunderfoot and Brett Keane. A lot of the stuff in that video was really aimed at stuff that Brett Keane had said. Like, I don't know why I'm just sitting here, because that was something Brett Keane would say all the time was, I'm just sitting here. And it's just like you're on YouTube asking people to pay your mortgage and you're just sitting here. You know what I mean? It's just like, then do something. And what else? Oh, he also was asking for people to buy stuff off of his wish list, and the stuff was stuff like a PlayStation or an Xbox, and
Yeah, his subscription to certain online gaming platforms, stuff like that.
And
Yeah,
I mean,
he was-
I have a different attitude about that stuff now than I did then, and back then I was really kind of appalled by it. I mean, some of the stuff that he was asking people to pay, I'm still kind of appalled by. But
Yeah, well, my attitude about any kind of e-begging is nobody's forcing the person to donate the money. I mean,
Right.
if you're just saying, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. If you want to help, go ahead and help, and if you don't want to help, I understand. Times are tight." I can't see a problem with that. It's no different to me at all. It is totally different when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I guess, but like Ben Fang X, for example, making false promises about what he was going to do with the money that was donated. That's a completely different thing. And while we're at it, the Amazing Atheist did the fucking same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
He did this whole what was the video thing? He was going to start a whole station,
Right.
and it never happened. And he never accounted for the money to his fans or anything. And it was supposed to be this big free speech vids thing, wasn't it?
Right. And
Yeah.
in a way, it was very, very much like what Ash was supposedly doing with the, with that network. It's like, we're going to have this alternate to YouTube, which was ridiculous on its face. Trying to, if anybody actually understood the infrastructure required and the costs involved and all this kind of stuff, the idea that a couple people or a small group of people were going to do this online was, kind of
Yeah. Everybody asking for money is not necessarily a scam, but every scam is always asking for money. So,
well, that's the thing is, it's like Brett Keane. I always saw that as what he was doing. I always saw that as a scam. And part of the reason for that, obviously, is because every other day he was somebody different. Like, oh, this week I'm a Christian and I'm asking Christians to help me, in the name of God, to please help me save my house. And then a couple of weeks later, he's appealing to his atheist community to help him in his hour of need. And it's just like, oh, yeah, no, that's a scam.
Yeah, he came on to one of my videos at one point. It took a while for him to find me.
I gotta go.
But he took him a while, but he came in. I know he was trying to like strike up some drama, and I just completely ignored him. I'm like, yeah, I'm not biting, dude.
Yeah. I stopped paying attention to Brett Keane, a very long time ago. Around the time that I made that video, I think.
I still have his phone number, and I can call into his web show. It's been years, and I did have a plan one day that if I was driving through his neck of the woods, that I would stop by, because no one ever did. Of all the different people that people wanted to visit, you know, can you think of anyone who ever visited Brett?
He's not a nice person.
Well, yeah. Who would want to? And secondly, who the fuck wants to go to Missouri?
Well, Raven knows. I've visited some fairly unpleasant people in the past. It's an experience to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes and see what's going on.
Well, I mean, I understand that. I visited, a very unpleasant person, and I regret it. But I didn't go to visit him though. I was there with somebody else. But still, I mean, I regretted having to be there.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Mendham smells like a paper plant.
Sorry?
Mendham, the street, it smells like a paper plant.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I've broken bread with a lot of people, and I'm more willing to do it now. But I would say my motives would be different now, and I don't have the passion to go do it.
Yeah. Vegas, Brett Keane I think he's still out there, but he basically is a YouTuber that has vacillated back and forth between claiming to be a Christian and claiming to be an atheist.
Now, he was one of the original atheist content providers on YouTube, and it was one of the reasons why his channel was so big. He had a massive following at one point. Like somebody in the chat said, he was like the original amazing atheist.
Yeah.
He's not a nice person. He was never a nice person. He never claimed to be a nice person. So I guess it's fine, I guess. But I mean, he would ask people for money for all kinds of stuff, and it was constant and it was ongoing and it never stopped. And it got to the point where it was like abusive, where he was basically abusing his followers.
Yeah.
Which I guess is fine if they're still willing to be abused. He's nice, not good. Yeah.
Some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to be abused.
And I mean, and I guess that's fine. I mean, I don't know. Like I said before, my view on the asking people for money online thing has changed quite a bit. And I think it was Patreon and the one that the Green brothers had that Patreon eventually bought kind of changed my mind on that. But
I actually want to say what Vegas says here. Yeah, actually that was it. And that was actually my problem with what Thunderfoot did. Again, I know I'm not against commerce. I'm not against people making money. I like to make money too. But what he did was he did this video and basically saying they have these mega churches and they have planes and cars and all this wealth and all these things. And what do we have? We only have these four professionals, which he was basically talking about the Magic Sandwich Show. And that's all we have. And what do we? And so that's why we need money. Instead of just saying, hey, look, I got a real job right now. If you want me to make full-time videos, I need to make a living. Send me money. That would have been fine. But when you go out there and saying, well, they have mega churches and and cars and planes, I'm like, are you saying that we should replicate the absolute worst feature of evangelicals?
I didn't take it as him meeting the Magic Sandwich Show. I thought he meant the Four Horsemen.
No. He was talking about the Magic Sandwich Show, and the thing about it is, so the four people on there, and DPR, who I love DPR, but DPR was studying to be a lawyer. He didn't have a science degree, and I'm like, well, what about Wildwood Claire? What about me? Claire's a geologist. I'm a chemical engineer. There's a couple other people with professional degrees.
What upset me about what Thunderfoot did though was similar. I mean, he put himself out there as give me money so I can be your Kenneth Copeland.
Right.
I want to be the mouthpiece for all of you. If you pay me, I can, it's like atheist tithing. If you pay me, I can be the force that fights for you.
Right.
Fuck
So,
off.
so basically being a professional atheist evangelical, and it's like, no, that's actually not what we want. We don't want, that kind of shit,
Right. Now, if it, like you said, if Thunderfoot came forward and said, "Hey, atheist community, I do have a full-time job and I can't spend as much time as I would like to making videos, but if you give me, every video I make, if you give me $5 or whatever, pitch something in, I can spend more time making videos, and that's different.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a whole
perfectly valid.
different thing. That's e-commerce.
That's right.
Um,
And especially at the time, the big reason why he was doing it is because he was using a lot of copyrighted content, and he couldn't monetize his videos the normal way because he would have had all
right.
his videos would have been taken down.
That's right. That's right. I remember that. That's right.
Lots of Simpsons.
Oh yeah, yeah. He had. I mean, I would say for the actual videos themselves, the actual film content itself. Now, again, he had two different types of videos. He had the science videos, which those were generally, mostly his content.
Right.
But he would make, like the "Why Do People Laugh" for creationists, and like almost 100% of those content would be clipped off of other people and were copyrighted content. So that's why so he could not monetize himself. And so even say that, hey, look, you like the content I make, but the way I make it, I can't monetize. But this was back when monetizing actually was worth something.
That video series, the "Why Do People Laugh at Creationists," was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Aaron Ross series that was similar. Absolutely phenomenal. It was fantastic stuff. It was some of the best videos made in the atheist community were those videos. I mean, they were so concise and so clear and so blistering to the other side of the debate. They were some of the first. The Aaron Ron was one of the first people I came across in the great debate community.
Yeah, the foundational falsehoods of creationism.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic series. In fact, every few years, I actually go back and watch the whole thing again.
I should. I watched some of them. I've watched a couple of times. There was a quote in one of the Thunderfoot videos that really stuck with me for a long time, and that was that about the life is finite, and because of that, you can't waste time with religion. You know what I mean? Your life is finite, and that gives it purpose, and that gives it value, and that gives it meaning. And it was just like, yes, there it is. That's it. That's everything. That's it in a nutshell. But
I'm trying to remember. There was one YouTuber. He's British from the north of England, and he didn't make a ton of videos.
Potholer?
No, I remember. I mean, Potholer is still making videos.
Yeah.
I want to say his name was Greg, and I remember the video that stands out
Phil
the most.
Hellenes.
Phil Hellenes, yes, you know what I'm talking about. That's what I was. Yeah, thank you, Joe.
He had some of the best videos on YouTube.
I remember this one where he basically was like, he was going back in time with the creationists to the time of the dinosaurs, and because they were going to
eaten by a dinosaur and then start all over again.
Well, the thing was, the idea was they were going to basically witness evolution happening because they were going to be alive the entire 65, like 80 million years or whatever, and so they watched the whole thing, and he was like, well, I guess I was wrong. We didn't really witness it. And then there's somewhere, and someone says, "Oh, look at those birds!" And then he and the creationists both start laughing. They're not birds; it's the dinosaurs.
It's dinosaurs. Yeah, that was a great video. Ghost of Day. Somebody mentioned Ghost of Day. Ghost of Day is a mommy now. I accidentally stumbled on her Facebook, and she has a baby. She has pictures of her kid. It's pretty wild. So if it's somebody, if you know Ghost of Day and you didn't know, now you know. So you can stop by and congratulate her.
Joe, we've been talking about atheist tithing for like a long time. You've been keeping this comment up on the screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot it was there. I was just looking actually at Phil Hellene's channel. So he did videos like more than 9 years ago. Then there's one from 8 years ago, and then he had one from 5 years ago. And I thought, oh great, there was a bunch of people like King Heathen. King Heathen was gone for a long time, and he came back. he was always the guy who was always drinking a beer, and he came back and he's like, "Oh, I'm back," and then he never made another video again.
I kind of did that, but now this time I think I'm kind of back again, just not as consistent as the past. Because I used to put up a video every day.
Right.
I ain't doing that.
Oh yeah, you have a lot more going on right now.
Maybe tomorrow, give us your review of Suicide Squad.
Hopefully we get to watch it. We should be able to watch it. I have no idea what's happening. I don't know if Damon is asleep. He's hard to get asleep these days.
Yeah.
ContraPoints dropped a new video, and it's great. I had no idea. I will definitely have to catch it. Do I remember theoretical bullshit? Okay, so on my old Facebook account, I was friends with Scott. And I love Scott. Because, you know, he's a very attractive man and he's very smart, so he's easy to love. So he is awake. But I saw Scott at the Washington D.C. meetup, and I was completely like just gaga. But what was cool was we were talking, we were bullshitting. We all went to a bar, and we were, you know, everybody's at the bar, we're drinking and stuff, and I'm talking to Scott. And people kept buying me drinks. And Scott looked at me and he said, "I'm the celebrity here. How come you're getting all the free drinks?"
That's funny.
But I mean, there was like Palace was buying me drinks. My friend Al was buying me drinks. And then there was somebody else. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he knows that I know he was buying me drinks, but he was buying me drinks.
You can put it in the private comments.
So yeah.
Well, and of course, Palace had an ulterior motive too.
So did the other guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was glad to see Palace disappear.
I don't think he disappeared. I think he's still out there. I think he like stalks everybody. I do. I think he's still there. I think he's like a weird, quiet presence.
Yeah, that's a major creeper. Yeah, even before I found out what he had tried to do, I never trusted that dude.
Peach saved my ass, literally.
For herself.
For herself. No, it wasn't like that. It just.
Oh really? Who ended up with you?
I mean, it just ended up that way.
Yeah.
You know what was weird and creepy? After that, he would like take credit for the fact that we're together.
Wow.
How fucked up is that? He's like, "Oh, but if I hadn't tried to rape you, you and Peach wouldn't be a couple now." That kind of a thing. It's just like,
it's like, thanks. You know, I mean, it's literally like you know. Remember that time I tried to rape you? Wasn't that turned out okay, didn't it?
Oh man, do you remember? My God.
And
Those are the days.
And I remember he's like, "Oh, that's just that was just me being nice." Like, no, that wasn't being nice.
Well, he was strong. I mean, I figure at the time I was probably about 150 pounds. He just threw me over his shoulder like I was nothing. He just and started walking out of the room.
What, Palace 48? I remember.
Whatever the hell his full thing was. Yeah. Peach grabbed a hold of like my body and like pulled me off of him. She was like, "What are you doing? Where are you? What the hell are you doing?" Yeah, it was fucked up.
I didn't like Stickum. I found it to be, I mean, the one good thing is that you could have more people on screen, I guess, but I just remember, at least at the time, I found it very disjointed.
Glitchy.
Yeah, very glitchy, very disjointed. This is why I hate Discord now. I know a lot of people like it because it has a lot of features, but the problem is it's not good at any of them.
Here's what I don't like. I don't like Discord because I just don't like the way any of it is laid out. Like if you're on a server and it's got like 1,000 different rooms in the server, It's all the same people in all of the fucking rooms. It makes no sense to have those. It makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Just have one fucking feed. We are capable of following conversations.
Well, like I can see having like, okay, sometimes you have private rooms and things like that. That's fine, but also I just the interface in general. I mean, the fact that you get to pick light or dark scheme and that's it. And listen, initially you didn't even have the light scheme; it was just fucking black, and that was actually causing me like physical distress. And as somebody who builds interfaces for a living, among other things, I'm like, who the fuck designed this? They need to be punched in the head. It's so not intuitive. Sargon was part of the sphere, but he was kind of in his own little bubble of shit. He was he never really like like the circles that we all hung in out. He never really was in those. Not really. I mean, yeah, I don't know anybody who back in the day he never did the blog TV thing. He never was on in any of those hangouts, or he never got in any of the events and stuff like that. I don't remember him doing response videos.
Yeah, I mean, he interacted with people within the community, or mostly, I guess, they interacted with him.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. It was definitely one way. One way.
I mean, that was like the other guy. Who was that asshole? Atheism is unstoppable.
Yeah, God.
From what I understand, he stopped. I think.
Well, yeah. Well, now you have someone similar in Skeptic Fence.
Skeptic Fence.
Yes. So when I hang out with Chris Matty, even though he's done this little bit like several times, but he tries to like take sidelong shots at him. He's like, if somebody was trying to put a fence around around atheism, like perhaps around skepticism, like a skeptic fence, and while he's going off on him,
What the hell? What does that even? What does it mean? I don't understand.
It's stupid. It's just really fucking dumb. I guess that's supposed to mean you're putting a fence around. I mean, would you be putting if you're putting a fence around skepticism, then that would be corralling skepticism and keeping it from everybody else. That doesn't really make any sense.
Wow. So, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm out. The food's here and my bladder's full.
Alrighty. Yeah, I gotta get going anyway. But hey, everybody, thanks for coming. And and we'll check you out next time.
Was that guy?
Same bat channel. Not sure if it'll be the same bat time, but you know how to find us. And we're out.